news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, May 7th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, 8 degrees. In Smiths Falls, it's 6. Here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. Despite not being out of the woods in terms of the escalating COVID-19 situation in the Eastern Ontario Health Unit, just like everywhere in the province, the medical officer of health, Dr. Paul Romiliotis, says the situation is improving.
We really are starting, we started to plateau here, and then we're starting to go a bit down, which is good. So I'm hoping we get a downward trend going. Clearly, we're still, above red, but we're much lower than we were a couple of weeks ago. So that is headed in the right direction.
The doctor says to respond to vaccine increasing in the coming weeks, the health unit will add 31 clinics across the region up until the end of May. He says there are still about 9,000 vaccine appointments available from now, though, until then. The federal government says it will take part in talks on the issue on whether to waive the patents on COVID-19 vaccines, but it's not saying right now which way it's leaning. The United States supports the idea. Germany, for example, is against. Mike Eppel reports from the City News Business Center.
The Biden administration changed its stance this week on the idea of temporarily waiving patent protection on COVID-19 vaccine technology, which has caused the Trudeau government to now say it'll also consider its options. Many European Union nations are supporting the plan, except for Germany, which is the home base of BioNTech, Pfizer's partner on an mRNA vaccine. Pfizer and the other pharmaceutical companies say it's not that easy to free up the patents and the intellectual properties from copycat products, instead pledging to ramp up production. Johnson & Johnson, meantime, says it has vetted 100 potential production partners for its vaccine, says just 10 are up to their standards. And the CEO of Moderna says he hasn't, quote, lost a minute of sleep over the U.S. announcement because there aren't enough facilities or skilled workers to replicate what the company is doing. At the Business Center, I'm Mike Eppel.
City News Time, 9:02, and now your forecast with meteorologist Jill Taylor.
For Ottawa, the Valley, and Smiths Falls today, some showers at times today, tonight, tomorrow, and possibly for Sunday, Mother's Day as well. 14 degrees for the high today, 5 for the low, but 11 tomorrow. That's it, up to 16 for Sunday. For today, the high, 14.
And right now in Ottawa, it's 8 degrees. In Smiths Falls, it's 6. City News Time, 9:02. The AMA Center on Hunt Club now open for vaccines. No appointment needed. There are 600 doses available there, but there is a postal code restriction. It's only for those in the following neighborhoods: Ledbury, Ridgemont, Herongate, Hunt Club East, Hunt Club Park, Greenboro East, and Emerald Woods, Sawmill Creek. You have to bring your health card and an ID to prove you live in one of those areas. StatsCan says the economy lost 207,000 jobs in April as a new rise in COVID-19 cases led to renewed public health restrictions that closed some businesses. Unemployment rate also rose nationally to 8.1%. That was a jump from 7.5% back in March. StatsCan says the number of employed people in April working less than half their usual hours also increased by 288,000. Losses in April nearly wiped out the 303,000 jobs that were added in March when the economy outpaced expectations and put the country about 500,000 jobs below the pre-pandemic level. Most losses were seen in full-time work than part-time, with the retail sector hit the hardest. I'm Andrew Boyle. For News Anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Separating headlines
from hearsay.
It's the Rob Snow Show on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Friday. We made it. And I don't care if it's going to rain today. I'm just glad it's Friday. Great show for you today. You see, we never rest, okay? We never take it easy around here. Some radio shows, Friday rolls around, and what do? They like to goof off. They do nothing but crack jokes, play silly music all day. We don't do that here on the Rob Snow Show. No, that's not how we roll, okay? We're always on top of it. We're always digging in. We're always trying to get deeper and deeper into the story. And that's what we're going to do today. John Manconi is coming on the Rob Snow Show this morning. This was the bombshell news out of City Hall yesterday. John Manconi runs transit at the city of Ottawa, the whole thing. And he is doing, Andrew, he's doing what we all want to do, right? He has Freedom 55. Freedom 55. I'm retiring. I'm out of here. I'm 55. I am out of here. Well, he's not quite out of here. Kind of like 1 foot out the door. September. He is retiring as of September. He's been with the city for a few decades. And, he's had a lot of big jobs, but none bigger than LRT. And he was the face of the troubled, to say the least, troubled launch of LRT for a lot of people in Ottawa. And I would imagine that wasn't always a good thing in the Manconi household. All-consuming, right? That would be an all-consuming job. And probably not a pleasant time to be the head of transit for the city of Ottawa. And then you come out of that, oh gosh, thank God that's over. And you go into, infectious disease pandemic, and you're in charge of a public transit system that nobody is using. And really, ridership hasn't recovered in any significant way. 14 months since the declaration of the pandemic. And there's a news report this morning. This is big news, okay? We have to think big picture here, what this means for our city. There's a news report this morning, federal public service not going back to work in the office towers of the capital city, quote, unquote, anytime soon. Anytime soon. Everyone who's working from home, they're going to keep working from home. They're working for the government. They're going to keep working from home. They're not going back to the office towers of Gatineau or Ottawa, quote, unquote, anytime soon. For the city, for public transit, you are talking now about hundreds of thousands of trips every day on OC Transpo that aren't happening and won't be happening anytime soon. And yet we continue to invest. And there's another kind of quote unquote for you, invest billions and billions of dollars and years into more light rail construction. So I'm sure, am I the only one questioning the wisdom of that? I don't think so. But look, I have a lot of time for John Manconi. I know he took a lot of heat for the failed launch of light rail. I'm telling you, the city council would have been lost without him. And you would be hard-pressed to find a more respected senior manager at the city of Ottawa. He's had a good run. Not over yet. September, right? He'll leave in September. And because he's still around, we have a lot to talk about. It's not like we're going to sit back and reminisce. No, it's not all about, nostalgia. I am just glad that he's going to take the time for us. Now, here's another blast from the past. I, in fact, cannot believe this is happening. Bob Chiarelli is going to be on my show this morning. Like not long from now, 35 minutes from now. Yeah, that Bob Chiarelli, the former regional chair, the former mayor of Ottawa, the former cabinet minister in the Wynne government. I used to call him the minister of sky-high hydro bills. Remember, he was the energy minister. And it's been out there for a while now. He's thinking about it. A political comeback. He is thinking about a run for mayor of Ottawa in the municipal elections next year. Bob Chiarelli, candidate for mayor, 78 years old. Ken Gray, ex of the Ottawa Citizen over at the Bulldog, he had that scoop a few weeks ago. So I have a lot of questions for Bob Chiarelli this morning. Why does he think people would vote for him? Again, why would he even want the job? Isn't if you're Bob Chiarelli, isn't it kind of like been there, done that, got the T-shirt? But that's at 9:45, right? 9:45 this morning. Things you never thought you would say. Bob Chiarelli joins me on the Rob Snow Show on City News. Never saw that one coming. Lowell is away today. It's nothing serious. He'll be back next week. But Pierre Bourque is on the way as well from Bourque Newswatch. Go over the big headlines of the week. Steve Warne of the Sens Nation podcast back with us this week. He was away last week. The Sens, they're fun to watch again. The Sens are playing their best hockey now of all times, right? Of course, down the stretch of this very weird short season, they only have 3 games left. It's not the same team that it was at the beginning of the season. They're a delight to watch, and it's going to be a long summer without them. And we're going to talk about the NHL playoffs and the possibility of a Leafs-Habs matchup. Who will you cheer for, David? Leafs? Habs?
Don't ask me that.
Really, right?
Oh, God.
Who are you supposed to cheer for? The faraway West teams, Calgary, Winnipeg, Vancouver. I can cheer for them. The Leafs and the Habs, the sentiment is vastly different.
It just feels wrong.
Right? When you can't stand either team, who are you supposed to cheer for? I look at it this way. I've come to this conclusion. Okay, I don't like the Habs, but I really hate the Leafs. So I will begrudgingly cheer for the Habs. Yay, go Habs. That's about all the excitement you'll get out of me. During the Talkback Hour, it's the Friday free-for-all, which means it's wide open on topics. I have some topics, but I want to talk about real estate today. That's the big thing for me. I really hope you will bring up your own topics today if there's something that has been in the news, or if there's something that you think should be in the news, if there's something that's bothering you, bugging you, you want to unload, you want to unleash, you want to unburden yourself. Do you need an ear to bend? Do you need a shoulder to cry on? Well, you have found the right radio show, ladies and gentlemen, because that is how we roll on a Friday, because within reason, just about anything goes, because it's a free-for-all. After all. And it's always a lot of fun, and it's always an adventure. You just never know where the discussion is going to go. 750-1310, 750-1310, 613-750-1310. That's the call-in line, again, after the 10 o'clock news. But some examples, some of the things in the news you may want to get into today. Line 5. Big news story this week. It's going to be an even bigger news story next week. This critical energy pipeline, 4.5 miles, Straits of Mackinac, that the left-wing governor of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer, she wants it closed down by the middle of next week. She would effectively choke off half the oil supply to Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, all points in between, right? Let the northern you know what's freezing the dark. Our ambassador, Canada's ambassador to the United States, tells CBC News, no big deal. I'm paraphrasing here. No big deal. No big deal. I'm paraphrasing. Quote, CBC News this morning. Possible shutdown of Line 5, not a threat to Canada's energy security. Ambassador. What? Say, come again now? Quote, it is not a threat to Canada's national economic or energy security, Kristen Hillman told CBC News Network's Power and Politics on Thursday. See, that's an interesting take because it contradicts everyone in the Canadian energy industry. It contradicts the energy minister, Seamus O'Regan. He has called Line 5's continued operation non-negotiable. He has said it is something he is watching like a hawk. And he's been calling all of his counterparts all across Canada and keeping them all in the loop, all around the clock, because it's non-negotiable. And he's watching it like a hawk. And yet our top diplomat in Washington says, quote, it is not a threat to Canada's national economic or energy security. She is aware we're talking about line 5, right? Does she know the file? And get a load of this, David. You're going to love this one. The real estate section of the Globe and Mail newspaper reported this week on a bidding war for a run-of-the-mill townhouse in the suburban community of Burlington, Ontario. Haven't you always wanted to call Burlington home?
Oh, it's on my bucket list.
Right?
Got to get there.
It's like an hour, give or take, from downtown Toronto. It's a 20-year-old townhome, end unit, 1,500 square feet, finished basement. Originally sold in 2001, 20 years ago, for $179,000. It sold again in 2006 for $276,000, again in 2009 for $291,000, then in 2010 for $345,000. That was the last time it sold. $345,000 until recently, when it was listed for $849,000, sold in one day after a bidding war for $1.1 million.
No, come on.
For a 3-bedroom townhouse in Burlington, Ontario. 20-year price appreciation, 514%. This is the Rob Snow Show on City News.
The opening a business especially in a pandemic, in that kind of situation, is very challenging. First, people don't know me, people don't know my product. To build a new clientele, to build a trust for them, to show them that I care about it. I do love my food. That was the biggest challenge. And of course, in all lockdown, where I had to face it regards my employee, girls, ladies, what they work for me. I didn't want to tell them, sorry, I'm closed, I'm not having a job for you. No, they have a families, they have kids to feed. So this is very important because we are family orientated. And we decided to open. We, of course, essential business. So been very tough, very, very tough, as we didn't see people on the road. Market was completely quiet, but we knew it that we have to wait, and we knew it that we're gonna be fine. In this town, we built online shop, Vedel Online, and we did Uber Eats, which one is picking up and is very, very popular. We have a really good feedback. So this is the song from my heart. And and we try to expand. I'm thinking about opening another location. So I want to make Vedel famous. I want to make the Vedel place to be for all the families with kids. Try the traditional food, what the grandparents cooked in the countries when they're from, or even Canadian people. They're more than welcome to come and try our famous pierogis. I try to be passionate about my food, organic food made with love, with all homemade, organic. So you can find food from all over the Europe: Polish, German, Ukrainian, Romanian, French, Armenian. So all kind of different types of food. Homemade lunches. We focus on the homemade lunches, grandma style. I keep always saying, like in my Genia babcia house, how she cooked. I wanted this love and this food over here because I believe that would bring all people around me. And all the organic cold cuts, lovely selection of sausages, cheeses, European cheeses, great selections of mustards, French cookies. All what you need from Europe you can find here at the Vedel Touch of Europe. If you think good way, that's it. You have to. I had the option to cry in the corner and say, oh, pandemic is coming. No, you need to stand up and fight for it and have your eyes open, think outside of the box and do it.
world is changing.
So keep up with Rob.
The Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News, 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Lowell's got the day off. Nothing urgent. Just couldn't make it this morning. He'll be back next week. I should mention, starting on Monday, we're going to air a daily commentary from me. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, great. Just what we need. More you, Rob. Yeah, but we're going to do a 60-second daily commentary, and it's also going to air every day on Shea 106. And it's called Snow in 60. I came up with that. I'm like a one-person content creation factory around here. And I recorded the first one today, and it's going to air on Monday. So if you're out of the old school and you enjoyed radio commentaries from people like Dick Smythe, for example, on Shea 106, you will remember even back to 106.9 The Bear. Randall Moore used to do a daily commentary called 1 Minute More. It's basically that. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're, taking a good idea and stealing it. That's what we do in the media. Okay. I used to do a daily commentary at the other place when I was doing the afternoon drive program. But I'll tell you what, 60 seconds, you have to get right to the point when it's 60 seconds. Longtime listeners, I mean, you know me. I could talk for 3 hours and not get to the point. Snow in 60. Listen for it weekdays starting Monday on City News and Shea 106. But we had some great guests all week. Starting with Line 5 on Monday, we covered that. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer calling it a ticking time bomb. And she's going to do everything she can to close that pipeline down by Wednesday of next week. And if that happens, it would choke off half the crude oil supplies for Eastern Canada. Big-time fuel shortages. Dan McTagg, former Liberal MP, is with Canadians for Affordable Energy, and he was my guest on Monday's Rob Snow Show. On a previous appearance on my program, you said it wasn't a matter of what you would pay for gas, but rather could you get it at all? Is that still your...
And that still stands. Yeah, very much so. Rob, I would think 50% of all the gasoline that we rely on and the diesel we rely on will be affected, and we will go into emergency supplies management. That pipeline is just too critical to be ignored. It's I refer to this as my American friends. Think of it this way: if the Colonial Pipeline in the United States were to shut down or be blocked, it would cause catastrophe for the U.S. Northern, southern, eastern seaboard. In other words, half of the United States would be, disrupted, and that would send prices through the roof. But yes, get to see the idea that yellow tape will be more and more common. And no matter what oil companies are saying in terms of contingencies, they are highly disruptive, and they are likely to meet the same kind of challenges. I hear that Imperial Oil says, well, we can get our oil from Maine through an old pipeline into Montreal. You can expect Quebec will say no to that. But other contingencies, rail, trucking oil all the way from Alberta, not only costly, but likely to lead to greater carbon footprints. And we shut down the idea of Great Lakes because it was too dangerous to cause Great Lakes shipping to transit a lot of this oil. So I don't see any convenient alternative that isn't anything less than highly disruptive to all of us.
Again, the next date on the calendar to circle for Line 5 is Wednesday of next week, the 12th of May. Now, pipelines, energy policy, energy security, the fight against climate change, carbon taxes, everything green. Aaron O'Toole was our guest this week on the Rob Snow Show. You can hear all these interviews, by the way, in the audio section of our app, and listen to them at our website, ottawa.citynews.ca. With Aaron O'Toole, we touched on a lot of things, including his about-face on the carbon tax, his plan to have a $20 a ton carbon tax. I want to talk about environmental policy. I want to talk about a carbon tax. For a long, long time, the Conservative Party of Canada has been opposed to a carbon tax. A tax on everything. Mr. Harper called it a money-sucking socialist scheme. It's something that governments want to do because they're afraid to raise sales taxes, like the GST. You yourself said you were going to repeal Mr. Trudeau's carbon tax. Now you're going to have your own carbon tax beginning at $20 a ton and maxing out at $50 a ton. Mr. Trudeau said his carbon tax wouldn't go higher than $50 a ton. Now we know it's going to go up to $170 a ton. You're going to have an entire segment of your party that has been opposed in election after election to a carbon tax, now trying to win an election pitching Canadians on a carbon tax. Why is the Conservative Party, led by you, now promoting a carbon tax, Mr. O'Toole?
Well, we're not promoting a carbon tax, Rob, because a carbon tax would send the tax revenue to Ottawa, which Ottawa would then redistribute, raise billions and billions going, as you said, as he triples it to 170 and goes further. Our approach, I'll be the first to say, the change we've made, Rob, is we are putting a price for the consumer on carbon.
Right. But I'm going to have to pay it. I'm going to have to pay it, which makes it a tax, and send it to Ottawa, which makes it a tax. Somebody in Ottawa is going to take my money. That makes it a tax. Come on, Mr. O'Toole.
When you pay the 10 cents on your beer bottle and you take them back, Rob, and you get that back, did you pay that tax to Ottawa, or was that an environmental levy?
That would be considered a deposit. Is that what you're calling this? It's a carbon deposit? Is that what?
No,
it
we're
is,
calling it. We're calling it a price on carbon.
Price,
people can give me a hard time on that. I don't mind. But when you actually see transparently what that price is, and then it stays in your low carbon savings account, you then are in charge. It is not being sent to Ottawa where it's going to be redistributed, sprinkled around according to Mr. Trudeau's green dreams. You are in charge. The only requirement is in the future it has to be applied against a purchase that will help lower your footprint. What that has allowed us to do is to come up with a climate change plan that equals Mr. Trudeau's original pledge on emission reductions, our Paris targets, without the job and economic disruption his increasing carbon tax causes. They know it's bad for our economy. I said to Conservatives, we're going to have a smart plan that meets our commitments. The Paris commitments were actually arrived at by the government I was in cabinet, Prime Minister Harper's government. We need to meet our international commitments, but not ruin our economy. And so we've taken the time to get that right following the Supreme Court decision. And I've proposed this, Rob, as a solution to those provinces that had been challenging Mr. Trudeau's tax in court. I've said we can kill Mr. Trudeau's carbon tax and offer up this approach instead, which makes our emissions. So it really will be the provinces in the driver's seat here, but I think Conservatives have put up a pretty innovative solution.
Conservative Party leader Erin O'Toole this week on The Rob Snow Show. Again, the full interview, ottawa.citynews.ca. Pierre Bourque, my guest, right after the news on City News.
The Rob Snow Show.
number one for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, May 7th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, 8 degrees, and here's what's making news this hour. Ontario lost 153,000 jobs last month as COVID-related shutdowns hit a number of businesses again, either with a full closure or a drastic drawback in what they were able to do. That is the big story behind the federal drop of 207,000 jobs across the country that has boosted the unemployment rate to 8.1%, up dramatically from 6.5% the month before. A vaccine clinic for those in specific areas, including Ledbury and Herongate, is underway until 7 o'clock tonight at the AMA Centre on Hunt Club. Proof of address is needed to get one of the 600 available COVID vaccines there. No appointments. This is a walk-in site. Eastern Ontario Health Unit says it's prepping to open up 31 more vaccination clinics soon. An expected rush of COVID vaccines coming into our province. The Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Paul Romiliotis, says while they're not out of the woods in that region, the situation is starting to improve. A new survey suggests Canadians do have a preferred vaccine, just like the country's national vaccine advisors. A survey from Proof Strategy shows 3/4 of people say they trust the COVID-19 vaccines are safe and effective. It jumps to more than 80% when people were asked about either Pfizer or Moderna. On the flip side, trust falls to under 50% for both the AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson. City News Time, 9:32. I'm Andrew Boyle. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Firm.
Fair.
Fun.
The Rob Snow Show returns
On Rogers TV and City News, 101.1 FM.
and 1310 AM.
Hey, Bourque is back. Pierre Bourque is here from Bourque Newswatch. Good morning.
Rob, good morning. Listen, some advice. You got to sell your shares in whoever makes Tylenol. With John Manconi retiring, usage of Tylenol in the city is going to drop.
Why do you say that? Why do you say that?
First of all, if he's listening, John Manconi, thank you for your service to the city. But wow, a glutton for punishment with that file. I don't care if it was John Manconi or anyone. File
Okay, yeah.
Full of headaches.
Yeah. A lot of sleepless nights for him.
Oh my gosh.
Right? Yeah. It's one thing, he made the big salary and it was published on the Sunshine List every year, more than $300,000 a year. But it's kind of like, Dr. Etches, more than $300,000 a year. Would you want to trade places with them?
I think the people who are in those positions, you lump in any your politician du jour as well. They aspire to that position. They aspire to a position of leadership where their experience can be brought to bear in the decisions that they make on behalf of others. But, look at Doug Ford. Holy cow. Could that guy use a month's worth of snooze time? And yet that's the job he wanted. Yeah. And so, we look around and it's easy to cast stones and it's easy to find fault. But when you're in the thick of it and you're the one making those decisions based on information you're getting willy-nilly from everybody around you, and much of it is going to be at cross purposes, that is tough work.
Yeah, I guess I just have to wonder, and he's going to join me. What time are we doing that? 11:15, I think, something like that, right? Right after the 11 o'clock news. Okay, so 11:05. Okay. The big curious question is why now? Right? Why now?
Well,
it's not like we're, say, out of the crisis when it comes to public transit ridership. It's not as though phase 2 of light rail is completed. So why now? Why now? I know he's not leaving till September, but why make that decision now, I guess is what I'm
and, September gives an opportunity for an orderly transition to whoever is going to take over that job. And it'll be interesting to see what John Manconi does. I don't see him being the kind of guy that is going to go and find himself a gardening plot somewhere in the suburbs.
He's only 55 years old. So
yeah, 55. And I think you said earlier that he's been there for 3 decades. So think of this, Rob. Think of this for a guy retiring at 55. When he started 30 years ago, Bob Chiarelli was older than you are today.
Yeah, and Bob Chiarelli's coming up in about 10 minutes' time. What do you think of that news?
Oh, I love Bob Chiarelli. He is the whirling dervish of local politics. He just keeps on going. All right, the ever-ready battery, if you want, for another visual. But, there's a guy, what is he, 80 years old? So I congratulate him on
78 years old.
78, 79. Congratulate him for having the energy or thinking he's got the energy to do the job and the desire.
I mean, we'll be lucky if we see 78 or 79, right? So.
Yeah, but look, the President of the United States, Joe Biden, is showing the way. He's showing the way that age isn't what it used to be. And hopefully it's ideas that count. And hopefully Bob Chiarelli, when he's on with you in a few minutes, and Bob, if you're listening, I hope you've got some great ideas for us, because I think that's what the population wants to hear. And I don't think the age part matters. It's what have you got for us?
Yeah, well, with him, I would like to know what are the issues that has sparked your interest to such an extent that you would actually put your name on a ballot, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, is he just stoking some embers and keeping himself on
relevant or whatever?
Irrelevant, yeah. And that's something that a lot of politicians do. And I'm not saying this of Bob Chiarelli, but many politicians we know, have a difficult time letting go and letting someone else. Look at Ralph Goodale. My God, he's been around since Jesus was a little boy, and now he's the new High Commissioner to Great Britain, of all things.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what it's like when there's a change election. And the last election in Ontario was a change election, and a lot of people get steamrolled, right? They just get rolled over, and a lot of people you never heard of, they come in, and a lot of people who have been around for a long time are kind of swept up in the desire for change, and that happened to Bob Chiarelli in Ottawa, West Nepean in the last provincial election. I get in conservative circles. Jeremy Roberts was kind of known, I guess. Maybe, if only because of all the monkey business that was happening with the PC nomination race in Ottawa, West Nepean, for crying out loud. But anyway, he defeated Bob Chiarelli in that election in Ottawa, West Nepean. And I think back to the change election that brought Justin Trudeau to power, that swept aside a lot of New Democrats, like Paul Dewar in Ottawa Centre, lost to Catherine McKenna. A lot of people didn't really see that one coming, but that's what a change election can do. So,
remember a couple of elections ago, there was the lady who I believe worked at the bar at Carleton University, and she somehow found herself the candidate for the NDP in Berthierville, which is in Quebec.
Yes.
And she spent the election, I think, in Vegas, because she picked up the nickname Vegas Brosseau.
Vegas, yeah.
And, that's where
Ruth Ellen, I think. Ruth Ellen, right? Isn't that right?
Ruth Ellen Brosseau, who actually got defeated in the subsequent election. But she, boy, oh boy, there's somebody who didn't campaign, spent the time doing other things, and she wins. She wins, and she's
in the Orange Wave, because she's on the ballot. She's not even campaigning. She's in Las Vegas, but she wins. And she doesn't even speak French.
Yep. And she was probably the only non-French speaking person in Berthierville.
Crazy things can happen. Crazy things can happen. What do you think is the big story of the week?
Look, I'm still focused on the vaccines and COVID. To me, everything else revolves around that, whether that's the economy reopening, whether that's jobs. We heard in the news just a moment ago, jobs are down in Ontario quite a bit, but vaccines are rolling out. So now there's all those different things. Is everybody going to take the vaccine? How many people won't? What will that mean to the reopening of society and the impact on the local economy? If the federal government, look, if I own a smoke shop, or if I own a small restaurant or a coffee shop in downtown Ottawa, and I heavily rely on the public servants that work in the building where my shop is located, what am I thinking right now? Lots and lots of people are going to be impacted by the rollout of the vaccines and the adoption of those vaccines. And let's hope that those vaccines that we are receiving, let's hope that they work against variants. What happens if the next variant that floats in off the air, because the government's saying they haven't come in by plane, what happens with those if they're twice as bad as the current?
Here's another question for you. Because we're into this big policy debate now about patent protection and the protection of intellectual property. Let's say there is a new variant that emerges and it's resistant to the current vaccines, that is very resistant to the current vaccines, and there's no patent protection, or patent protection can be stripped away with the stroke of the pen of the President of the United States. Where is the incentive for a company like Pfizer to come up with a new vaccine? Are you going to rely on the generic manufacturer to come up with a new vaccine? Good luck.
Yeah, we know that a few of the vaccine manufacturers who are the ones that we hear about, the Modernas, the Pfizers, the AstraZenecas, are the ones that found the magic solution, right? There must be others out there that have not yet found it. And so we only hear about the ones that have been approved because they're the ones that have a solution to the problem. Who else is out there that's working on it? And if you can loosen up the IP protection, you may find new solutions to the new variants that are not yet on our shores. And clearly look, Rob, we're lucky. We're in a first world society, and we're at whatever 60% adoption right now in Ontario, maybe more in the United States, but certainly many, many other areas around the world, perhaps most, they haven't yet gotten their first shots.
Yeah. But if you develop, for example, a new technology for vaccines like mRNA, or whether you write a hit pop song, write a best-selling book, have a great recipe for fried chicken with 11 herbs and spices, shouldn't you be able to protect your trade secret?
You should, but we're in a situation where people are dying, they're dropping like flies. So you have to find that happy medium. You have to find that happy medium, and you have to reward those that find the magic solution. But you don't want to discourage others.
But what's the reward? What's the reward? You're removing the reward. You're removing the incentive.
Yeah, but you still need the approval
to try and achieve the reward.
You still need the approval of the government to roll out your vaccine solution. Right now, we need more vaccine of existing vaccine. Hopefully, that will entice vaccine developers to come up with those vaccines that are going to be required for variants. Hey, Rob, let me point something out to you.
Right.
Have we found a solution to AIDS yet? No. Have we found a solution to Lyme disease yet? No. Right?
No.
There are lots and lots of diseases that are out there that we should be addressing as a society.
Right.
So let's get people involved in that.
But don't you think that the guarantee of, say, for example, a 7-year protection on your patent acts as an incentive to try and solve some of those pressing world problems?
How many people have died of COVID in the last year, in that 1 year, let alone 7 years? That's the counterbalance right there. How many people are going to die? You need to roll out as soon as possible. Look, we're only as strong as our weakest link, in my view.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
When I was racing, Rob,
I know, Pierre. You're going with the human cost, and we don't see eye to eye on this. In my opinion, is probably the more controversial opinion. For example, Moderna said yesterday its 2021 sales for its vaccine, it's going to sell about $20 billion worth of vaccine. Not that that's going to be its profit. That'll be its sales. $20 billion worth. Okay. For Moderna, for one company. How much has COVID-19 cost, just say, the U.S. economy? $10 trillion?
I think you're giving ammunition to my own argument, not yours. And you've got 3.3 million people who have died in the last 12 months from COVID. 3.3 million. How many more between now and the time when the last human gets their COVID vaccine? How many more? In my view, and as I was going to say here, as a race car driver, you remember that. We've talked about it. Your efforts on the track are only as good as the guy who put the bolts, who bolted your tire to the car. You know, if he was lackadaisical in that and the tire comes off, well, you're off in the wall. And this is the same thing here. We need everybody working together to get this out there and get everybody vaccinated as quickly as possible. And more than that, it seems, we need to be ready for the next generation of variants, because the current generation of variants are bad enough, but there's going to be a next generation.
But who's going to do it? Is it going to be a generic drug company?
I think they all have to be involved. They all have to be involved. Okay. They all have to be involved.
I don't know. Okay. Will you agree to disagree? That doesn't happen very often.
Keep an eye out in the skies. I know we're in the northern hemisphere, but an 18-ton piece of Chinese rocket debris is about to fall in the next 24 hours.
Okay. Okay. Have a great weekend, Pierre Bourque.
Same to you, my friend.
Feisty today. All right, Pierre Bourque, Bourque Newswatch. Bob Chiarelli joins me next on The Rob Snow Show on City News.
I wanted to give gifts to my volunteers, so I started making, I knew this is a skill I had, so I made a chocolate that had culture, a cultural based with a teaching, because culture here is not just a little part, it's the large part, it's the fundamental part of our organization. So then we started doing, just little programs, and we sell a few at a fair. And then we started getting contracts. People were starting to enjoy the chocolates, and started getting more and more contracts all across Canada. Then we decided to become a social enterprise, and we were able to create 2 jobs. And Val is one of our chocolatiers, very talented. We were able to help her with employment.
We started just with a little bit in the kitchen, doing a little bit of chocolate together, and next thing it's just kind of taken off. And it's great because I love to be creative, and we get to create a lot and make up stuff, and it's just I just love it. It's just great that we get to make money back for Wabano, and it's helping me out, and we're helping just everybody out, Wabano and everything.
We met a very socially conscious business owner being around town, and we decided to partner, because beans and chocolate, coffee and chocolate are sort of created the same way, and there's and they're very one origin bean, so it was a good pairing together. And it's been a fantastic partnership for both of us.
I was fortunate enough to get introduced to Pierre, the head of Wabano Fine Chocolates, through a local networking group. And I was completely intrigued by the social enterprise that she was running, and then I looked at what we were doing, trying to support local business and supporting local communities, and it was a perfect match, and it's been fantastic ever since.
We make every batch by hand. We temper it by hand to get to the consistency it needs to be to make a good chocolate. And one of the best, also wonderful things we did, we've connected with Ed, with being around town, and our coffee bars have been amazing hit. So we're really excited about the connection with our coffee.
Pillar of community opinion.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
When it comes to politics in this city, he's done just about everything. Former regional chair, former mayor of Ottawa, former MPP and cabinet minister, may be coming back for more. Bob Chiarelli joins me on the Rob Snow Show on City News. Good morning.
Good morning, Rob, and thank you for having me on.
Are you going to run for mayor?
Well, I can state straight up that I have not ruled out being a candidate for mayor in the coming election. And yes, I'm seriously considering it. And that's because the voters in our community deserve a real election this time, where there's a real choice. There are serious issues in our city that have grown to crisis or near crisis level that must be addressed in our next election and by a new council. And I have the experience and know-how for the job. But I might add as well, if I do decide to be a candidate for mayor, I will be a candidate whether Jim Watson is in or out of the race.
You would be willing to run against an incumbent mayor, Jim Watson?
I'm prepared to be a candidate and deal with the issues, whoever the candidates are, including Jim.
Okay. What are some of the serious issues? that has drawn you back into the ring?
Well, I could list several of them, and then
Let's
if you
go.
want to
Let's go.
expand on it,
Yeah.
expand on any of them, I'd be happy to do so. First of all, I think there's a strong consensus in our community that congestion, and that's not all related to LRT, by the way, congestion is at an unacceptable level. Financial management, balancing the city's budget, will require a lot of tough work with experienced hands at the table. The level of debt and the finances of the city have been hobbled, not all because of anybody's fault, because of COVID and the challenges of LRT. An unprecedented infrastructure deficit in our community. It's at an unacceptable level. When you look at the condition of the city roads and some concerns about Lansdowne Park structures, particularly the challenges, about 2 months ago, Steve Kanalakis, to his credit, came right out and said that Phase 3 of LRT to Barrhaven and Canada will not be possible until after 2031. That's 10 years from now. The congestion is already serious, and if something isn't done by that soon, there are serious issues there.
Well, let's stop there then. On traffic congestion, why do you think it's so bad, and what should be done about it?
Well, I think there's a very strong consensus in the community that the traffic is at an unacceptable level. The time it takes to get from A to B during rush hour, morning or afternoon, is unacceptable, and it's a common complaint by many people in the community, by most people in the community, as a matter of fact. So something has to be done with respect to the congestion. Completing LRT, whenever that happens, will be part of the solution, but there are still very, very serious areas where...
Well, let's talk about a couple of choke points then that you would be familiar with as a lifelong resident of Ottawa. For example, for forever, Bob, people in the South End have been wondering if the Airport Parkway is ever going to be twinned. People wonder what's going to be done with the 174, for example. There's 2 choke points in the city. What should be done about those, for example?
They need to be addressed. Okay, number one, that's also a budget issue, and so the election campaign is going to deal with those issues, and the new council is going to have to deal with those issues. I've talked to some councillors, and they're shaking their heads as well about some of the roadblocks we have on main issues moving forward.
Okay, the mayor has had this cap on property tax increases. At the start, it was 2% annually, and it went up to 3%. Do you think that has constrained the budget process at City Hall? Do you think that's reasonable? Give me your sense of what has you concerned about the budget, Bob Chiarelli.
There's a major principle here. The concept of freezing taxes at the consumer price index has a fallacy to it, because there are different indexes. There is a municipal inflationary index. There's an industrial index, and there's a consumer index. When you look at the municipal index, and it's online, you can check it out. The average increases per year for a municipality, an urban municipality, you're looking at somewhere between 4 and 7%. So if you freeze it at 2% without any other grants or any other sources, you've got a real problem.
Yeah, but how do you go to the homeowner and say, I want to tap you for another 5% increase on your property tax bill? You wouldn't stand for that as the mayor of Ottawa, would you, Bob?
As mayor of Ottawa, I froze taxes a couple of the years I was in, and a couple of the years I was in, we were slightly over the rate of inflation. So it depends on the circumstances at the time, and sometimes tough decisions have to be made as well. But one of the other issues is to have a positive working relationship with the other 2 levels of government, and sometimes you can You can use some community support and negotiations with the two levels of government, depending on where they are and depending on how you make your case. You go there to Queen's Park and you go to the Minister of Infrastructure federally, and sometimes even the Prime Minister, and you make your case, and they will often listen. So it's a little bit of everything that has to happen to resolve the issue.
Do you think the money that is being invested, I mean, Phase 1 is over and done with, and it's up and running. Phase 2 under construction, now Phase 3 delayed. Light rail, multi-billions of dollars, many years of investment and construction delays. Is this money well spent, in your opinion? Light rail money?
Let me first of all put this in some context. When I was mayor, we had a program to move forward with phase. There was only Phase 1, Phase 2, but Phase 1, and that was signed, sealed, ready to move forward. And a new council came in and changed it. That first of all cost 8 years. In other words, the completion of that project would have been 2009. Okay, so instead of finishing it in 2009, it's being finished now. So you've got 10 years plus later, so you've got 10 years of inflation to add on to that. So that cancellation of that project and putting it forward 10 to 12 years, you put it forward 10 or to 12 years of inflation. So the cost went up dramatically. The other issue was, and it was a significant debate that took place, was whether or not there should be a tunnel or not, or on the surface.
Yes.
And many municipalities, including those in Canada and large cities in the U.S., have had surface LRTs. In our situation, they decided to go to a tunnel, and the cost went up very, very dramatically to use the tunnel, so that took up a lot of capital, a lot of borrowing area for the city, and it kind of hobbled us somewhat. So you went from a project that was less than $1 billion to one that was $2.2 billion. And the tunnel was problematic, and a lot of technical people had indicated at the time that probably downtown Ottawa wasn't a good place for a tunnel. But anyway, that decision was made. That's history. That's gone. We have to deal with the realities that we have today. And all I'm suggesting is I think I have the experience and the background to be part of a solution. This is a solution that has to be made by all of council and by the mayor, and with support from the business community and the public. So it's a huge challenge, and I think we need a team, not only the mayor, but a team working with the people and the businesses in Ottawa to move forward. Like the situation for Barrhaven and Canada is really, really critical. Canada, the high-tech community is expanding. They're building houses by leaps and bounds out in Canada, and a decision has been made with the city council that they're not going to go to Barrhaven and Canada till after 2031. Steve Kanellakis, to his credit, came out 2 months ago and basically said we will not have LRT to Canada or Barrhaven until after 2031. That's 10 years from now, while they're still expanding.
Yeah. Let me ask you about, because we're right out of time here. You're 78? What do you say to people? Are going to say, Bob Chiarelli, you've been there, done that, got the T-shirt. Why would I want to vote for Bob Chiarelli? He's 78 years old.
Well, any issue of age will be decided by the voters when they elect their mayor.
Right.
But I do have a perspective I'd like to very, very briefly. John Baird was elected as MPP when he was 25 years of age. Hazel McCallion was elected mayor of Mississauga when she was 92 years of age. I'm somewhere in between.
Thank you, Bob Chiarelli. Very interesting. No, we have to go. It won't be our last discussion. Thank you again.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, bye-bye. Bob Chiarelli, Rob Snow Show, Rogers TV and City News.
This is City News.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number one for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 1011 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, May 7th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, 8 degrees. Here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. Yes, you will miss your mother, but for the second straight Mother's Day, we're being asked not to gather. City News reporter Kevin Meisner now joins us with the latest hospital numbers and what's being said about extending the current stay-at-home order even longer.
Vaccinations are accelerating in Ontario, but new COVID-19 infections aren't retreating fast enough to consider rolling back restrictions. Ontario's Associate Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Barbara Yaffe, says family gatherings over the Mother's Day weekend could trigger another surge in COVID cases, just as we're seeing the third wave easing.
So yes, this means that if you don't live with your mother, I'm sitting here once again asking Ontarians to celebrate Mother's Day virtually this weekend. The virus is still spreading.
Dr. Yaffe says it would be surprising if the current restrictions were lifted at the end of May, but there are encouraging signs. Anthony Dale, head of the Ontario Hospital Association, says ICU admissions are trending down. It appears the worst of Wave 3 may be behind us. Kevin Meisner, Queen's Park.
Now, the AMA Centre on Hunt Club is open for vaccines. No appointment needed here, but there is a restriction on your address. These are targeted immunization clinics. 600 doses available today. A postal code restriction, so only those in the following neighborhoods qualify: Ledbury, Ridgemont, Herongate, Hunt Club East and Hunt Club Park, Greenboro East, Emerald Woods, and Sawmill Creek. You have to bring your health card and an ID to prove you live in one of those areas. Eastern Ontario Health Unit will be increasing access to COVID-19 vaccines in the coming weeks. It's in response to an increase in supply. Now, according to the Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Paul Romiliotis, 31 clinics will be added by the end of next month.
That will be able to administer total, including this week, over 30,000 vaccines between now and then. So, and at this point, we still have about 8 to 10,000, about 9,000, I would say, places open.
Now, Remiliotis says they will also be adding weekend and evening clinics and more to accommodate an even wider range of people. He says the situation in the health unit is starting to plateau and stable out, but it hasn't begun the downward trend that they want to see. Provincial police investigating a collision in Trenton that claimed the life of a 14-year-old boy. Police say this young teen from Quinte West was riding a scooter late yesterday afternoon when he was struck by a vehicle. Incident happened in the town of Trenton. Police say paramedics rushed the boy to hospital in critical condition, but he did die a short time later. City News Time at 10:05. Unemployment rate in Ottawa jumped close to a 0.5 percentage point last month. More provincial restrictions kicked in, and that kicked out some workers. Ottawa's city rate jumped to 6.7% from 6.3%, while Gatineau actually dropped to 6.6% from 7.3%. I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Talk back.
Hello. On the Rob Snow Show. The phone lines are open at 613-750-1310.
Now, the Rob Snow Show continues.
Hey, would you vote for Bob Chiarelli for mayor of Ottawa? He says he's going to run for mayor. Seriously thinking about running for mayor. Even if Jim Watson is in the race. Ooh, that would be a good one, I think. That'd be a good one. Who do you like there? I see a ballot starting to take shape here. I don't really see what I would call, say, even a progressive conservative, let alone, a big C conservative. But say Jim runs. Maybe Jim runs. I'm thinking Jim's not going to run, but maybe he does. What else would he do? Maybe enjoy his retirement. Maybe he can go with John Manconi on a fishing boat somewhere or something. Bob Chiarelli, Diane Deans, I think might run. I think Diane Deans should run. I would encourage Diane Deans to run for mayor. Jim Watson, Bob Chiarelli, Diane Deans. I've heard Yasser Naqvi's name booted around. I've heard Lisa McLeod's name booted around as some potential candidates for mayor. But I don't know. If you have any thoughts on the Bob Chiarelli interview, I don't think he's lost a step when it comes to being engaged on municipal issues. And I think the more candidates, the merrier. And if they have previous government experience, particularly at, say, the cabinet level of the provincial government, then why not? What's the matter with that? Okay. Busy week in the news game. Very busy. No rest for the wicked. Okay. Doug Ford was back at Queen's Park this week. We have our MPPs coming up at 11:30. Doug Ford was back at Queen's Park just in time to face the wrath over his government's handling of COVID-19 in long-term care. The PC Party of Ontario this week launched those radio attack ads against the Trudeau Liberals. I think when it comes to Doug Ford versus Justin Trudeau and federal Liberals versus provincial progressive Conservatives, they're both happy to be slinging mud at one another. You know why? They need each other. The Ford people need Justin Trudeau because they think going after Trudeau can turn their own political fortunes around. And Team Trudeau, it needs Doug Ford. They think Doug Ford's sinking popularity right now is their ticket to a majority government. Aaron O'Toole, as I mentioned, was on the show this week, and we played you the clip of the carbon tax. That was the most animated part of our interview right at the end. He's still insisting that the carbon tax is not a carbon tax, and whatever you pay, you're going to get it all back in your low-carbon savings account. He likens it to the deposit you put on bottles of beer when you buy a case of beer. So it's not like a carbon tax or a carbon price. It's a carbon deposit. And whatever he wants to call it, it's going to be $20 a ton. It's going to go up to $50 a ton, and I have to pay it, and someone in Ottawa will have to collect it. And for my money, and it's my money, that's a tax. But you listen. I encourage people to listen to the whole interview, do the podcast thing. You might actually enjoy it. And I quite like interviewing Aaron O'Toole. I don't understand actually why he is so unpopular. I actually find him quite likable. I do think, though, and this is counter to the prevailing opinion these days, even among my friends on the right side of things, I just think it's a huge mistake and a massive political miscalculation for the Conservative Party to spend any time at all trying to outdo the left-wingers in this country on climate change and carbon taxes. It is not worth the time. It is not worth the effort. It hasn't gained them any love in the polls. And I actually think there's a better message to tell Canadians right now about the cost of living and housing affordability. Forget making life more expensive for me, Aaron O'Toole. Justin Trudeau's doing a fine job at that. And that's what you hammer away at. Hey, Mr. Trudeau, why does somebody have to be a millionaire if they want to live in any big Canadian city these days? Hey, Mr. Trudeau, from gas to groceries, from lumber to chicken breast, why is it so expensive to live in your world? That's what you hammer away at. But they don't listen to me. Oh, the big housing boom. Anyway, let's get to some phone calls. Friday free-for-all here on the Talkback Hour. Vince in Nepean. Good morning, Vince.
Good morning, Rob.
Yeah, Vince. Did you hear my interview with Bob Chiarelli?
Yeah, I was really impressed by it.
Oh, you were? Okay.
Oh, yeah, I really was.
Would you vote for him?
10 times over.
Really?
Well, I mean...
Why is that?
Well, Bob Chiarelli, Larry O'Brien, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where would you go now? And Jim Watson, he's run out of ideas.
I don't know. Well, see, I don't know. I don't see it the way you see it when it comes to Larry O'Brien, because one of the problems with Larry O'Brien is that they elected Larry O'Brien and then they re-elected every single incumbent councillor. So he never had a chance because all the councillors ganged up on him. And then the unions went on strike on him during the big bitter bus strike, right? They did, and of course, there was the trial of Larry O'Brien, where he was acquitted on all counts. So, if there was turmoil, it wasn't all Larry's making.
No, it wasn't all Larry's making, but he didn't do much to calm the water, shall we say. He was like a bull in the china shop.
Well,
he thought he could run the city the way he runs his private company. You can't do that.
Okay.
He's the boss, and what he says goes.
Well, he ran citywide and won. He ran citywide, and he defeated. Not only did he defeat Bob Chiarelli, he also defeated Alex Munter, which turned out to be pretty good for Alex Munter. He went on to be the CEO of CHEO. So,
better job.
Okay, right. And he's been a pretty good CEO of CHEO.
No,
so.
I think at the time people wanted to change because they made a big issue about the cost of the light rail going to Riverside South. And everybody says it's going to nowhere.
Yeah.
Well, it's not going to nowhere anymore.
The streetcar to nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was one of the big things that they sold the public on.
Yeah.
And, of course, the alternative to that has become something more expensive, much more expensive. And Bob was right on,
You think he was right? You think he was right on rail? Okay. All right, Vince. You would vote for Bob Chiarelli. Okay. That's interesting.
Definitely.
Thank you. Thank you, Vince. Where are we going? Question on inflation. Chris in the West End. Chris.
Yeah, hi. Good morning, Rob.
Yeah, hi, Chris. How are you?
Not too bad. So unemployment rates are up, yes, but I want to talk about a stupidity of a municipal process. So we're a restaurant doing a renovation. We'd love to open when COVID allows us to.
Okay.
And yet the government stands in our way. Example, so they will not issue us a building permit so we can finish the construction. So we got half walls that can't be finished. They won't do the permit until after the COVID lift, which means after the COVID lift, there's a backlog, which means delay. Then they'll get to us. Then the construction guys can get to work. Then we can employ some people. So how many months delay when we're sitting here now with a month of perfect time to do the renovation while we're closed?
Right.
But the government won't do the permit. Now, he doesn't have to show up and do a walkthrough to say this wall looks correct, go forward. There's great things called Zoom and video where we can go, look, this is what you're going to see. Ask questions. We'll walk you through it. You don't have to be here physically.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a stupid process that gets in the way of any renovation now. That means our delay to open is X months after COVID goes to a green light. Absolutely silly.
Absolutely silly. Thank you, Chris, for calling. Good luck, sir. Got to run. Friday free-for-all. That's 1 quarter down. 3 to go. Be part of it at 750-1310 on the Rob Snow Show on City News.
So the Birth of Absinthe was 2002, I think, 2003, and I was working at Urban Bistro, happily, where Allium is now. And then the space where Holland Cafe was came up. It's on the corner of Spencer and Holland. And I spoke to the landlord, and there's a lot of interest from a lot of other people, but he and I just, got along super well, and he put a lot of faith in me. So Carmen Turner is his name. He gave me the lease to the place and really pretty much gave me all the equipment in the place. So I was really lucky. I've been really lucky with landlords that way, actually, both my current landlord and Carmen Turner. Because if there hadn't been Carmen Turner, there wouldn't have been Absinthe. So we were there for a few years and just sort of outgrew the place. And then now we're here. It's obviously been tough, and it's been tough for everyone. I mean, that's been the big democratic sweep of, like, in restaurants and the hospitality and the arts that we were talking about earlier. It's like everybody's been impacted pretty much the same. From everybody that I talked to, we're down 80%. We're climbing out now. I think one of the saddest things is like everybody, we went down to 2 employees from 25, and we're now at 4, and we're bringing 2 new people on this week, so we'll be at 6. So it's little steps. So it's been tough. It's I've got the most expensive clubhouse ever here, because some days you come and you don't do any business, but you're here. But I'm grateful for what I do have. I think everybody's optimistic now, not necessarily just about the vaccine, but about like the vaccine, spring, being able to be outside. I think you're going to see a lot of like pop-up things happen in parking lots and on sidewalks and all, and like that, rather than being actually inside somebody's commerce. I think we'd like to take it outside. I know my staff would. My staff like the outdoors now, all of a sudden, all 4 of us. 6 soon. But we'll be doing some business in the patio in the parking lot, and we have a patio out front. And I think I hope other restaurants and stores will do the same. I hope that they take advantage of like the sidewalk and doing sort of, guerrilla marketing and stuff like that, and really shaking it up a bit. You can find us at Absinthe Cafe at 1208 Wellington Street West in Hintonburg, and you can find us online at absinthecafe.ca.
It's time to talk back
on the Rob Snow Show.
Have your say and call now.
613-750-1310.
It's the Friday free-for-all, so anything goes within reason. We don't pick the topics. We have topics. Mayor's race, a year out from the next municipal election. Bob Chiarelli said on my radio show just about a half an hour ago that he is seriously considering a run for mayor, even if Jim Watson plans to run again. He would run again. So you may want to weigh in on that. There's all the news that's been in the news this week, but let's roll with whatever happens to be on your mind this morning. Kevin, Ottawa East, good morning. You're on City News.
Morning, Rob.
Good morning, Kev.
I'd like to talk OC Transport.
Go ahead. What do you want to talk about there?
The bread and butter for OC Transport has always been moving the civil servants in and out of downtown.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we're hearing that they're encouraging, if you can work from home, that's where you're going to be.
Well, it goes beyond that. The news story this morning from the public broadcaster, Kevin, said you will not be returning to the office anytime soon.
So what does that do to downtown Ottawa? It's going to be a ghost town.
Isn't that a good question?
The people, I worked at Besson Laurier for 12 years. You know, you went to buy a coffee, you went to
get a newspaper, coffee.
Laurier,
sure.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you suck the money out of downtown, you suck the money out of the little businesses, you know, that to rely on people going downtown to work.
Yep. Yep.
So
I mean, it's 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock in the afternoon. That's your OC Transpo peak ridership rush hour, right?
So
if they're all working from home, what does that mean for OC Transpo? This is one of the things I'm going to put to John Manconi when he comes on our program a little later today. They're screwed. Well, yeah. Okay.
For lack of a better term, but seriously, without the public service ridership, they don't have a leg to stand on.
Yeah, but I mean, these are such great points, Kevin, that you are raising. What about all that real estate in Gatineau? What about all of those big office towers in Gatineau? What about all the office towers, all the office space in Ottawa, all that square footage that's leased by the government of Canada? What's to come of that if everybody's working from home? What is to come of that if everybody's working from home?
Who knows? But it's probably going to be an interesting 4 or 5 years.
Oh, I would say so. Yes, absolutely, sir. Yeah, great points you're making, Kevin. Great points. Yep, thank you, sir. Yeah, thank you, Kevin. Thank you. Yep, Jack is in Nepean. It's a wonderful place to be in, Jack.
Hi, Mr. Snow. First-time caller.
Appreciate it. Go ahead, Jack.
I wonder if you can help us out. I'm a young retiree. 15 years in the government, in the federal government.
Okay.
And the Phoenix pay damages. So they paid between $2,000 and $2,500 to all my working colleagues that are still working.
Right.
And they promised the same amount to us retirees.
Okay.
And it's been over 2 months, and we're still waiting for anything. And we don't know what's going on with the Treasury Board or with the federal government. I've tried every avenue. I even tried my, beautiful Anita Vandenbelt, and she has no idea what's going on. So
okay.
I'm just
sir. Jack. You've done your part by making the call. You say you've tried every avenue. I wouldn't even know what avenue to get on.
Okay,
Jack. Okay, I don't even know where the on-ramp is for that, buddy. But good luck. Okay, thank you. On the mayor's race, Perry in Barrhaven. Perry.
Rob, I listened to Bob Chiarelli.
Yeah.
And he must think that we have short memories here.
Okay.
I mean, he was an integral part of Kathleen Wynne's government.
He was the Minister of Energy.
And he was so arrogant, and he was so mean-spirited toward us. And he was.
Why do you say that? What do you mean?
You know what? I don't remember. I don't remember exactly, but I remember some of the things he said and some of the things he did, and just the fact that he was the energy minister and the things that were perpetrated on us with the green energy and the.
Well, it wasn't just the Green Energy Act, okay?
No.
And let's remember why he was made the energy minister. There was some politics going on there because Dalton McGuinty left, right?
Right.
Dalton McGuinty kind of took his own walk in the snow because he had been abandoned by the teachers' unions. The teachers' unions felt betrayed by Dalton McGuinty because he was taking their bank sick days away. So Dalton McGuinty quit. They had a leadership race. When Dalton McGuinty was premier, Bob Chiarelli was the transport minister, which is a sweet gig. When you're the transport minister, you're going all across the country, and what are you announcing? Roads, road construction, right? Bridges, everything to do. You're cutting ribbons. You're handing out giant novelty checks, right? It's a really good job.
Yeah.
But he backed in the leadership race Sandra Pupatello, a more kind of blue liberal, business-minded liberal, Sandra Pupatello. And Sandra Pupatello lost to Kathleen Wynne. So Bob Chiarelli's great reward was to be made the Minister of Energy. In other words, you get to be the minister who gets to explain all of these big-time sky-high hydro bills, and you're the guy who has to go on all the political talk shows and explain the gas plant scandal.
Exactly, and he showed no mercy toward the voter. And I remember toward the end, he was just, I think, as disliked as any other liberal politician at the time.
Yeah.
So for him to come back and expect, I'm not speaking for anybody else, but for him to expect me to vote for him, forget it. It's just not happening.
Not happening.
I don't care if he's 25 years old or 75 years old. It's just not happening.
Okay. Thank you, Perry. Okay, it's not happening. Okay, fair enough. Eric, good morning, Eric. Eric in Barrhaven, go ahead.
Morning, Rob.
Hi.
Just want to call out the NACI again, and this time I've got something I think a little bit more ammunition.
All right.
And it's scary.
Scary. All right.
New England Journal of Medicine article.
Yes.
650,000 participants.
Wow. Big
divided
sample.
into two groups. One of 385,000 who had received one shot and were tested for their ability to stave off COVID after one shot, and then 265,000 people who had two shots within the 21 days.
Okay. Is this the Qatari study? That okay? All right. Okay.
So what is scary about that is they looked at the two of the variants, one which is predominantly circulating in Canada right now, which is the British one, which is the one I'll speak to. The ones that had received one shot only were tested at 3 weeks, just before they got their second shot, and they were found to be 29% protected. When they got their second shot and were tested 2 weeks after that, they were 89% protected. So right now, the NACI and Junior are playing Russian roulette with our lives, and I don't think that's an overstatement.
Well, I mean, that's the spirit of Diane Francis column in the Post.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And it's a time tested as it's a test. It's called a test negative case controlled study. One of the strongest statistical types of studies you can do, and it scares the hell out of me.
Well, see, I read two papers, and again, I don't have a strong scientific background. I'm just a radio broadcaster. Spent a year doing this. Two papers. BC Medical Journal said. Immunity after the first dose, 19 to 42 days, looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay? Not much difference. But because we have not collected really any data on this that we can compare, we don't know after 42 days. We don't know what the immunity is like after 4 months. Our entire immunization program against COVID-19 in Canada is 4 months and 3 weeks old.
Well,
how can we possibly know how effective it is?
There's so many papers now coming out because we've got some time behind us, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can start looking at that sort of data, and it scares me. The more I see, the more I start shaking.
Okay. This was Dr. Thank you, Eric. This was Dr. Don Bodish from McMaster University on my program yesterday. This is the soundbite. We're going to play the extended clip for you after the news. When I asked her, beyond 42 days, what is known about the immunity level in our bodies after just one dose of vaccine?
So we really are making it up as we go along.
We're making it up as we go along. 1028, Rob Snow Show, Talkback Hour, Friday Free for All. This is City News.
news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, May 7th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, 9 degrees. In Smiths Falls, it's 10. And here's what's making news this hour. Latest number of COVID cases in our province, 3,166. Of those, there are 106 new cases in Ottawa. Eastern Ontario Health Unit has 15. There's 1 new case in Leeds, Grenville, Lanark, and 5 in Renfrew. These test numbers come from some 51,300 completed tests province-wide. Mother's Day and virtual greetings. That's the ask from medical officials in Ontario. For the second year in a row, you're being asked to skip a family celebration on Mother's Day and only do virtual wishes for a happy Mother's Day instead of in person on Sunday. StatsCan says the unemployment rate across the country went up to 8.1%. It is largely due to job loss in Ontario in April. The number shot up. Over 2/3 of the job loss in the country are attributed to our province in April. It was largely due to the COVID restrictions that were brought back into effect. City News Time, 10:32. I'm Andrew Boyle. For News Anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Talk back.
Hello. On the Rob Snow Show. The phone lines are open at 613-750-1310.
Now, the Rob Snow Show continues.
And it's the Friday free-for-all talkback hour. Just about anything goes. Pick a topic. We prefer that it's been in the news, but that's not an absolute requirement. Here on the Rob Snow Show, City News, Friday free-for-all talkback hour, 750-1310, 750-1310, 613-750-1310. Let me count the lines that are available. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all of them. My goodness gracious. Vaccines, that was a big story this week. It's a big story for everyone all the time. Just ducked out into the newsroom. We're doing a story right now. More pharmacies coming online, right? More vaccine supply is becoming available on a daily basis. You have more clinics and pharmacies booking vaccine appointments. The age limit is being lowered as time marches on. I'd be curious to know, ladies and gentlemen, is anyone out there, you remember they dropped it down to 40 plus, right? It was 40 plus. Go get the AstraZeneca dose at a pharmacy. Are there still people waiting to be called back? They just never heard back from a pharmacy at all. I'm just curious to know whether that's all been sorted out. And the 4-month wait between doses, we touched on this yesterday, and it has really taken off as a news story. Lots of questions about how wise this really is. Is it really necessary? Given the increasing supply, the more reliable supply chain for vaccines. Diane Francis in the Post, just an incendiary column today. But we like to put our questions to the experts when it comes to the science of COVID-19 and vaccines. And Professor Dawn Bodish is one of the top experts on immunity in the country, educated at Oxford. She does her research out of McMaster University. She is a Canada Research Chair. And I asked her about the waiting game, the 4-month wait. What is known about the quote-unquote further decline in immunity beyond day 42? Has that knowledge improved, do you think?
Not really. Unfortunately, our comparator groups are Israel, which has done an incredible job with vaccination, but also used mostly on time. Most people, there was a slight delay, but used a fairly close to on-time schedule. Our second comparator group is England, but that's or the UK rather, but that's a little complicated because they use mostly the AstraZeneca, and so the dosing schedule is a little bit different for that.
Right.
So we really are making it up as we go along. I will say, though, Public Health Ontario released their data today about when people are getting infections after they've had the first dose. The vast majority of them are before 2 weeks because it takes the immune system 10 to 14 days to ramp up. So after your first dose, you can't expect to be protected for 2 weeks. And then the next chunk of infections are between 21 days and 42 days. And then it actually peters off pretty consistently as the immune system is sort of maturing and reflecting and making better and better antibodies and things like that. So we aren't seeing a huge increase in infections in people at that 4-month mark. We're actually seeing that those seem to be a little bit lower. Now, this can change because, of course, these variants of concern are making life extremely difficult right now and sneaking into some of these under-vaccinated people. But right now, we're not seeing that people who are close to their 4-month time point are not protected. Having said that, though, I am so optimistic about all of the increased shipments we're going to be getting from Pfizer, especially because most of our healthcare workers did get either the Pfizer or the Moderna vaccine. So there's a lot of optimism that we will be able to get them the booster maybe sooner than we had originally predicted at 4 months. So there's a lot of optimism right now in the community about that.
Canada Research Chair, McMaster University expert in immunity and aging, Dr. Don Bodish. The Canadian Press, by the way, reporting this morning, Alberta might shorten the 4-month wait time between doses if the supply ramps up. And nothing on that, though. There were reports earlier in the week that the Ford government was looking at doing that, shortening the wait time between the two doses, but nothing official just yet. Nothing official just yet. 750-1310, 750-1310, Friday, free for all. Frank in Elmer. Good morning, Frank.
Good morning, Rob.
Yes.
I'm surprised people aren't upset about the Prime Minister in terms of, they say we are in a war against the virus, but and who is the leader in a war? To me, it's the Prime Minister, not the provincial premiers, and he's the responsible. And what he did is, it's like giving an army guns and rifles, but no bullets. So they wait for the bullets, and now they say, oh, all these people get killed. Of course they get killed. They have no bullets. So, I don't think that's...
I mean, everybody remembers Churchill, but nobody remembers, kind of who was around him, right? Because Churchill was a tour de force, right?
Exactly.
He was the leader, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
And this is what people seem to be missing. They're not focused on the right thing. He's the leader.
Right.
But he doesn't lead. He gives everything to everybody else.
Okay.
Because he knows it's going to be a mess.
Okay. And you know what happened to Churchill after the war, right? Right after the war, they had the election, right?
Yes.
Yeah, what happened to Churchill?
He was gone.
Yeah, he lost, right?
Yes,
he saved the world, and then they threw him out.
You see, they'll do that maybe with Ford. Who knows?
Well, okay.
Thank you very much.
You think Doug Ford's doing a good job, though, Frank?
Yes.
You do?
Of course, with what he was given.
With what he was given, okay. Yeah, they did a record number of vaccine doses yesterday, 140-some thousand in Ontario yesterday. Yeah. Most ever, so.
Again, he does the best with what he has.
He does the best with what he has. Okay. Thanks, Frank.
Thank you.
Thanks, Frank. Yep. Bye. Good to hear from you. Yep. Brian in, from Elmer all the way to Eganville. Brian in Eganville.
How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, I'm living up here in your buddy, the leader.
Yeah, Bruce McIntyre's neck of the woods, sure, yeah. Eganville's a lovely place.
Life's good. We don't have no COVID up here.
Oh, yeah, okay, good. Well, five new cases in Renfrew County today, but...
Well, yeah, but that's Arm Prior. We don't count that.
Oh, you don't count. Okay. Eganville's like a distinct society from Arm Prior?
Oh, God, yes.
Yes.
Anything that keeps us away from Bob Chiarelli in Ottawa.
Okay. All right, Brian. What's on your mind, Brian? What prompted you to call today? I don't think you've called me before, so...
No, a first-time caller.
I appreciate that. What's prompted the call today?
Okay, within the last year, Trudeau's given away 200 and some million twice to Quebec firms to build ventilators.
Yes, he has, at twice what they normally cost.
Yeah, and none of them are made.
Well, some of them have been made and delivered, actually. Whether they are deployed, the latest reports have indicated that many of them have been warehoused now.
Yeah, well, they're doing India a lot of good there, right?
Well, the pledge from Canada is that we may send India a few hundred ventilators.
Well, are we ever lucky? 400,000 people every day, and we're going to send 100.
Well, a few hundred. I think it was 250, maybe 250, maybe 450, something like that. Yeah.
What I can't
They sent us
understand
they sent us 2 million doses of vaccine.
Yeah, all on their last week of validity here.
Oh, I see. You they were close to expiring was the report, right? Yeah. Well, whatever. We needed them. We used them. They're all gone now. So.
Basically, people in this country don't realize this is a pissing contest between Trudeau and Ford.
Right.
And neither one of them are doing a good job.
Okay. Right. Okay.
So who am I going to vote for? Aaron O'Toole?
Aaron O'Toole? I don't know.
Lucky me.
Right. All right, Brian. Thank you. Thank you.
I'll
Get a run.
call when I have an opinion next time.
You do that, Brian. Thank you, sir. Yeah. How many people feel like that guy, do you think?
Lucky me.
Lucky me. Who do I get to vote for? Aaron O'Toole. Lucky me. Wayne in Stittsville. Good morning, Wayne. You're on the air. Wayne? Where's Wayne? No? All right. I don't have time to wait around. Okay? When I call your name, be available.
Hello.
Mark in Ottawa. Mark in Ottawa on Bill C10. Go ahead, Mark.
Hello.
Yes, Mark.
Hello?
Mark.
Hello?
Is your name Mark?
No, it's Wayne.
Is this Dave or is this the other Dave? Yeah, Mark, go ahead.
No, it's Wayne.
Yeah, it's Wayne. Yeah. Go ahead. Can you change this name on the screen, please, David, from Wayne? Thank you. Wayne, what do you want to talk about?
You were asking about who had signed up for pharmacies and hadn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, so back when they opened that up, I'm 53, and prospects for getting the provincial, it wasn't looking like it was going to happen till like late June or something for the way they were showing the rollout before all these vaccines started rolling in. So I was a little hesitant to doing the AstraZeneca, given all the
reports and everything,
all the reports and whatnot.
Yeah.
And, my situation is a little different given I'm recently retired, single, live at home alone, don't go out anywhere.
53 and recently retired. Holy cow. You're living the life of Riley there, buddy.
But living home alone, like when they tout go get Astra, your percentage of getting COVID is higher than that. Well, that's pretty relative. They make a blanket statement. Well, I don't go anywhere, so my chances are pretty low. So I'm willing to do, as you say, shop, and I'll wait for the Pfizer kind of thing, right?
Right.
But I also have, a genetic blood condition and have to be treated at the hospital on a regular basis and whatnot. But my thing was, I don't want to be going into that situation not treated. And so I basically, I'll go for the Astra. So I signed up.
Let's suck it up and go get a shot, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
So
okay.
I signed up for the shoppers thing and did that online. And, you got your initial confirmation, we'll be in touch at some point.
Okay.
And that's it. Never heard back after that. And then it was about 2 or 2.5 weeks, I think, before they announced the 50 plus there just yesterday for the provincial.
So you never did get a shot at a pharmacy?
Never did. Never heard anything.
Wow.
And so I did the provincial and boom, got my appointment for this Sunday.
Well, good for you. Good for you.
And so also turned around to go back to the shoppers and deregister.
Yeah.
And you go online and it's like, oh, you can't do that online. Call us. You call them and it's like, yeah, well, you can't do it here either. So
okay. All right.
What do you want?
So it's a well-oiled machine running like a top.
Yeah.
So on Sunday, what vaccine are you going to get?
Well, it's provincial, so I assume it'll be either Moderna or Pfizer.
Right, okay.
It didn't say.
So in the end, you actually probably feel better about that, right?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
And, I was talking to you yesterday where we were saying the second appointment is showing 105 days later.
105 days later. Yeah. Yeah, the maximum's 112 days. I'm sure there's a big difference.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I was going to say one other thing.
Sure.
Related to my hesitancy and stuff, and you already talked about it because you got the Astra yourself.
I did, yes.
And with NACI and their confusion and all that crap, I don't care for NACI and everything about it. I did like the one thing the lead doctor did say, where she had said, basically, we're about giving the facts to everybody, and everybody's different. Consult your family physician.
Go to your doctor.
That's the message that they should be putting out globally. Not. You get all these talking
I guess
heads
what my worry now is my second dose is supposed to be August 12th.
Right.
Is there going to be any AstraZeneca around on August 12th?
I think they just announced this morning a whole bunch coming in, or 600,000 or something. But yeah, who knows?
Well, by August, 600,000.
Oh, is that what it was?
If it's that, I didn't hear that, but whatever. Okay, thanks, Wayne. Gotta go. Okay. Yeah, bye. 10:46, final quarter, Talkback Hour, Rob Snow Show, Friday free for all. This is City News.
The food cupboard started about 25 years ago. Again, it was a very small operation in the basement of a church. And we have been expanding to the point where we needed to have a new facility. So in discussion with the city of Ottawa, and Jan Harder, the local representative here, we came to this location, which is about 2,000 square feet, located in the Walter Baker Center. We've been here for about 2 years, and it is much better. It gives us a much broader opportunity to serve our clients better. It's a fairly affluent community in Barrhaven, so you wouldn't think that people would really need to have a food bank or a food cupboard. But people sometimes have a temporary loss of their job, maybe new immigrants or refugees to the community. Maybe there's been an injury in the family or something like a pandemic that causes people to run short of food during their monthly requirements. So we offer any clients who come and live in our catchment area the opportunity to pick up an order of food every 3 or 4 weeks. The need varies from time to time. We have expanded our offering to include quite a few perishables, eggs, milk, cheese, yogurt, vegetables, fruit, but people I think know that we need cans of beans and stuff as well too. One thing that we're consistently short of sometimes is personal hygiene products. You go to the grocery store, you buy your toothpaste and you buy your deodorant and shampoo there. People don't automatically think that to donate those kinds of things to a food cupboard. So we end up buying quite a few of those things from time to time. The pandemic has affected us like it has everybody. Initially, we had to stop the grocery store food donations so that we didn't have any risk of contamination and to have a significant number of volunteer work to be done in our facility. We have a storefront, so it's like a mini grocery store where you take a cart and you go around and pick out the things that you want. That doesn't work during the pandemic to maintain social distancing and so on. So what we have now is our clients can come in one at a time, they make an appointment, they stand behind a line, and they direct our volunteer to, I'd like Kellogg's cornflakes rather than Harvest Crunch, to pick the food that they would like off the shelves according to the allocation, depending on the size of their family. And then they take it out, load it into their vehicle or whatever, bring back the cart, we disinfect everything, and prepare for the next client. We are very blessed here in Barrhaven. We're a totally volunteer organization. So if you give a dollar to us, it goes to purchasing food or to provide some service to our clients.
Time to talk back.
On the Rob Snow Show.
Have your say and call now.
613-750-1310.
I always drive David crazy when I point out some of the real estate listings that are in the newspaper. And the Globe and Mail had this one about Burlington, right, David? Like Burlington. Burlington. It's my dream to live in Burlington. Burlington.
It's even in Burlington.
Burlington.
What can you do there?
This townhouse is in Burlington. This 20-year-old townhouse that sold for, well, enough money that it made it to the Globe and Mail. 20 years old, okay? So the original buyer bought this in 2001 for $179,000. Now, you can picture a $179,000 townhouse in Burlington. It's like a million other townhouses in Ottawa, in Burlington, in Toronto. So according to Google, to get from Burlington to downtown Toronto, you take the Gardiner Expressway, and in non-rush hour traffic, it's 45 minutes to an hour. Okay? $179,000 townhouse sold in 2006 for $276,000. Then in 2009 for $291,000. Then in 2010 for $345,000. It was listed recently for $849,000, and it was on the market for 1 day, had 8 bids, and the winning bid was $1.1 million. $1.1 million, David, for a 3-bedroom townhouse in Burlington, like not Brooklyn, Burlington.
TripAdvisor has the top 10 attractions in Burlington. 8 of the top 10 are different kinds of parks, and the 10th is actually listed as Go Transit. That's an attraction in Burlington. And they also have an art gallery.
1,500 square foot end unit with a finished basement. Isn't that something? Holy smokes. That's a crazy real estate market they have in Burlington. Connor in Orleans.
Hey, that was me that bought that house.
That was you, yeah? Just adding to your portfolio, right,
yeah,
Connor?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm out $1.1 million, but I think it'll be worth it in the long run. You know, a lot of the talk that I'm hearing about cooling the real estate market is essentially more stringent mortgage measures, as in making it more difficult, a higher stress test, shorter amortizations. But I have some very serious concerns about this. Okay. First of all, I want to put one thing into perspective. The Bank of Canada benchmark rate is 4.79%. So I'm actually online right now. If I'm getting a mortgage for $500,000, the qualifying payment is $2,800. Whereas in reality, with rates being closer to, say, 2%, the payment that I would actually have for 5 years or so would be $2,100. That $700 a month factored into the calculations right there disqualifies many, many people. And I'm really worried that especially young people under 30 or between 30 and 35 will not be able to afford houses. Forget about the massive increases, but because the mortgage stress tests are too difficult. I would like to see mortgages allowed to be amortized over 30 years for insured mortgages. Right now, the maximum is 25.
Yeah.
What's the difference if you're 30 and it takes you 30 years to pay it off instead of 25? I don't think it's a big deal. And I'd also like to see the stress test rate, the 4.79, I understand it should be more than the current mortgage rates, but does it need to be more than double? I don't think so.
All right, Connor, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Enjoy your Burlington townhouse. $1 million house. I can remember when the dream house, the Chio dream house, like $1 million. $1 million. Now it's like the dream home is like a $1.1 million Burlington townhouse. Madoc. Jason.
Yep.
Hey, Jason, you have any $1 million townhomes in Madoc?
We're getting close to
Getting close? Okay. All right. Okay.
As long as the GTA keeps flooding in, then I guess the dollars will go up.
I guess so. What's on your mind today?
Well, I got an answer to the real estate problem in Southern Ontario, because very soon, if we don't wake up to what's going on with this Line 5, you won't have to worry about real estate in Southern Ontario, because there'll be no heat in the wintertime to heat your house is worth $1 million. So,
right.
And maybe once everybody's toes are frozen this December in downtown Toronto, maybe we'll wake up and see the problem our country is in with no energy independence.
Well, our ambassador in the United States, the Canadian ambassador to the United States, says it's not a big deal, sir. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah, it's not a big deal, but it supplies 50% of Southern Ontario's fuel, 100% of Pearson's fuel, but we don't have to worry about that.
No, don't worry about that. No, has nothing to do with our energy security.
Well, thanks to all I can say is we got federal and overall government just in disarray, mismanagement. It's like watching a chicken run around with his head cut off.
Okay.
The way our country is ran right now.
All right. Thank you, Jason. Gotta go. Thank you. Gotcha. On line 5, that's going to be a big story for us next week. Marilyn Gladwell's going to join us next week, Conservative Member of Parliament, Sarnia, Petrochemical Centre of Canada. And that's where line 5 ends. And it becomes line 9, and it goes all the way to Lévis, Quebec. Joyce, Ottawa, Bill C-10. Joyce.
Hi. Hi, Rob.
Hi, Joyce.
I just comment first.
Yeah.
The reason you've got such a good show is that you're a smart guy and you attract smart listeners.
Oh, well, thank you. That's so greatly appreciated.
Oh, it's true. Sharon in Bell's Corners, I wish you'd run for politics. The most important thing I want to talk to you about is on November the 11th, when we honor all those people that suffered and died for our freedom.
Yeah.
I hope they remember Justin Trudeau, who is considering giving up everything they fought and died for, will be for nothing, I want people to think of that.
Freedom of expression.
Freedom of expression, yes, it's so important, basic to our Canadian values.
Well, the Prime Minister said this week in the House of Commons, or what passes for the House of Commons these days, that if you're opposed to what the government is trying to do with Bill C-10, then you must wear a tinfoil hat, Joyce.
I read that.
Yeah.
I read that on
clip?
The Sun.
Okay, yeah. David's got the clip here. Play the clip for us, David.
Will the Prime Minister tell us how long it will be before every aspect of Canadian life must conform to his liberal vision of Canadian society?
You're right, Honourable Prime Minister. The tinfoil hats on the other side of the aisle are really quite spectacular. Our focus throughout...
Tinfoil. Are you wearing a tinfoil hat right now, Joyce?
No, I forgot to put it on. Anyway.
No, you're right to be concerned, Joyce. You're right to be concerned, and you're not a nut if you're concerned about what is being proposed with Bill C-10.
And Justin Trudeau, he's not the brightest crayon in the box. Probably it's not his fault, but we are the ones that vote
But he's the one with the brightest socks, Joyce. We gotta go. That's it for the Talk Back Hour for this week, Friday Free for All. We're back on Monday with that right after the 10 o'clock news. John Manconi is retiring, head of transit for the city of Ottawa. He joins me right after the news on City News.
W1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 1011 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, May 7th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, 9 degrees, in Smiths Falls, 10, and here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. Latest COVID-19 numbers out of the province show 3,166 new cases and 23 more deaths. Now, 106 of these new cases from the province are in Ottawa. 15 are in the Eastern Ontario Health Unit. There are 5 new cases in Renfrew. Leeds Grenville Lanark has updated their site this morning. 5 new cases, 3 of them in the past 24 hours, along with 1 additional death. The new cases from the province come from about 51,300 tests. In neighboring Quebec, the health minister, Christian Dubé, says the province is setting a daily record for vaccination appointments, 272,000 bookings made. Dubé says in a Twitter post the province is ready to ramp up those vaccinations when the delivery permits. He calls the response from Quebecers exceptional. The province has started accepting appointments for those 35 years of age and older and says every adult will be eligible by the end of next week. He also said beginning May 13th, Quebec will begin offering electronic proof of vaccination. In the Eastern Ontario Health Unit, they will increase access to COVID-19 vaccines in the coming weeks in response to an increase in supply in our province. According to the Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Paul Remiliotis, 31 clinics will be added between now and the end of the month.
That will be able to administer total, including this week, over 30,000 vaccines between now and then. So, and at this point, we still have about 8 to 10,000, about 9,000, I would say, places open.
Now, Remiliotis says they will also add weekend and evening clinics to accommodate a wider range of people. He says the situation in that health unit is starting to plateau and stable, but it hasn't begun the downward trend they are looking for just yet. City News time 11:03, and now your forecast with meteorologist Jill Taylor.
If you have to head out today, pack the umbrella. Some showers at times today and tonight. More showers tomorrow, and the highs still below average. 14 today, 11 tomorrow. Sunday, Mother's Day, chance of some more showers, but up to 16. For today, the high 14.
And right now in Ottawa, 9 degrees. In Smiths Falls, it's 10. The unemployment rate in Ottawa jumped up close to a 0.5 percentage point last month compared to the previous month. More provincial restrictions did kicking out some workers. Ottawa's rate jumped to 6.7% from 6.3%. Gatineau's rate actually dropped by over 0.5%. Nationally, the third wave of COVID-19 delivered a major blow to the economy.
Statistics Canada says the economy lost 207,000 jobs in April. It followed a rise in COVID-19 cases driven by variants. That led to renewed public health restrictions that closed businesses. The unemployment rate rose 8.1% from 7.5% in March. StatsCan says the number of employed people in April working less than half their usual hours increased by 288,000 or 27.2%. Blake Lambert, The Canadian Press.
And the Supreme Court of Canada has upheld a conviction of a youth found guilty of sexually assaulting another teen in a case that involved booze and capacity to consent. The 15-year-old boy convicted of sexually assaulting a 14-year-old girl in the Toronto area back in 2016. The two teens were friends from school, drinking at a party, and had sex a short distance from a bonfire. Now, the girl told police she didn't remember the activity. The trial judge found the girl was not capable of consenting. The boy, beyond a reasonable doubt, knew or was willfully blind to this fact. In a decision today, the Supreme Court concluded that verdict was reasonable. I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
He's the opinionated Ottawa icon.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
John Manconi is retiring after a long career with the City of Ottawa. He is still, until September, General Manager of Transportation Services. And John Manconi joins me this morning on City News. Good morning.
Good morning, Rob. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great, thank you.
How are you really?
I'm doing great.
Freedom 55, John. You've got it, John. You did it.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to continue working after that. So.
Okay. Why now?
It feels right. When I looked at all the options and scenarios, stage 1 of the LRT is running well. It's going to continue to improve. They had an amazing month last month also on performance. Stage 2 is well underway. I mean, you can't drive anywhere in the city, east, west, and south, without seeing the amazing transformation of our city. And that's important because we're set for decades to come. Labor peace with the unions. We've had a great working relationship with all the unions. We've got a 5-year deal with ATU, so there's peace there on that front. Great staff, a great leadership team here at OC Transport. I am the transportation department, and then I have to put myself first once in a while also, and it's time. And it just feels right, and I want to leave the place in a position to succeed.
Okay.
And I've got 5 months to help the city manager in terms of the transition. He wants me to help out, which is very very good. And it all came together nicely.
What role will you have in picking the next general manager of transportation services? Will you have input on that?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to map that out. I was very clear with the city manager. We all reach this point at some point in our life, and I'm happy to step aside, or I'm happy to be involved, and he wants me involved, and I'm going to continue to work hard right to the last minute. And in terms of the next leadership person, it's for Steve to pick, but he's certainly interested in my perspective and input into that.
Okay, and it's your choice.
It will not be my choice. It's Steve's choice.
No, but I mean, it's your choice to leave, though, to retire. It's your choice.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
No, absolutely. No, look, I'm eligible for retirement. 32 years and 10 years here at almost 10 years at OC Transpo. And proud of the accomplishments the city has done collectively with all our partners and our staff and city council and the mayor. And it's my choice, 100% mine. Hence the reason I gave 5 months notice. Technically, I only have to give a month's notice. But I want to do a good, strong finish for everybody.
Okay. When I think back to that, because I remember those days, covering City Hall those days, and you coming from Public Works and being named to OC Transpo, and some of us who followed city politics a lot thought, well, that's kind of an odd choice, because Andy Hayden had always said OC Transpo needs... It's its own culture, it's its own beast, and it's almost kind of left to its own devices sometimes. What was that like when you first went into the transit side of city operations, out of Public Works and into that? What kind of learning curve was that for you?
Well, a couple of things. Leadership at this level is not about being a subject matter expert.
Okay.
And I can tell you that I didn't have a magic wand. This place didn't turn around because of me. This place had all the ingredients for success. Because I can tell you, I mean, they had a long strike, they had a lot of tension, they had a lot of mishaps. But I came into this place, and the women and men that I met on day one told me right to my face, we will do whatever it takes to satisfy our customers and city council. We just want a leader that has our back, that understands that we're committed. And I can tell you that all I had to do was unlock that passion. And it's leaving OC Transpo on its own. I disagree with that. This is part of the city.
Right.
And there's been a lot of attempts to, keep it as part of the city, not part of the city, separate the fleet operations. We're part of one big city. And 21st century modern cities need integration on all levels. And, when Steve gave me on OC Transpo, but also all the transportation elements, that's why we're able to run transit and launch scooters during a pandemic and optimize, cycling and all that, because it's all connected. It's about mobility. So,
don't get me started about the scooters, John.
Yeah, it's safe. You ain't seen nothing yet.
Apparently.
Coming. And no, listen, it's
scooters on the sidewalk. Scooters on the sidewalk. Just keep them off the sidewalk. That's all. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's all part of being an integrated city and being positioned for the 21st century. You need a modern mobility system. You want to be a 21st century city, you need a 21st century system to move people around on all modes. And we're building that. We're ahead of the curve. We're ahead of most cities that reach 1 million people just start to build what we've already built. And the fact that we're back-to-back stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. And look, I'm not tone deaf. There's been some pain for customers.
Oh, yes. Yep.
But remember, no playbook. No other city in the world has done what we've done. And a few years down the road, people will go, you know what? Yeah, that was a bit painful at times, but well worth it. And I'm not making excuses. I'm not being non-empathetic or empathetic to our customers. They put up with a lot. But it's a long-term,
Well, maybe, John, with all due respect, there were times when, no city has done what we have done. Maybe it's because we shouldn't have done it. That's, what some people were thinking, I bet. Fall of 2019, it's all smiles. There's a launch of the LRT, but then the snow starts to fly. We know the whole story about the performance. It wasn't great. What was that time like for you, personally, professionally?
So 2 things. Leadership is about being present when things are tough. It is so easy to lead when everything's perfect and when you're not doing transformational city building projects. But Rob, I know you love your facts and I know you love your history. There's actual footage, if you search it, of the opening of our award-winning BRT over 30 years ago. And let me tell you, the parallels in terms of how that didn't open well and the criticism is identical to the launch of the LRT. And for 30 years, nobody's ever questioned our BRT because it's moved billions of people around, just like our LRT is doing right now. Change is tough, and leadership is about being in front when things are tough. And you see me at events and launches and openings. I'm behind the scenes. That's for others. That's for the important people, the city council and those people that are there to do that stuff. I'm about leading an organization, not just through easy times, but through difficult times. Were there dark, difficult moments? Absolutely. Was it hard on my team and my staff? It was hard on me to take the mic, but every time I do that, I thought about that operator. I thought about the train conductor. I thought about the people, the red vests. I thought about the managers that didn't see their kids for 24 hours because they were working through the night. That's what leadership's about. It's part of the job.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know about the BRT situation. I do look forward to seeing that. But I do know when we first launched the streetcars in Ottawa back in the 1890s, the very first day of its operation, the very first day, Sparks and Metcalfe, one of the first streetcars hit a pedestrian.
Yeah.
Ran over somebody. So maybe we're just kind of cursed. I don't know.
No, it happens at all. You just go around the world, whether it's in Australia, whether it was in Toronto. Look at the streetcars in Toronto. They're fantastic. They're brand new. We had a tough time getting those out there, but they got them done, and they stuck with it. It's tough doing these changes, and we're changing people's habits, and that's the thing that we can't forget. We took people out of buses that were going right from their neighborhoods straight to downtown, introducing a transfer, and unfortunately, there was way too many breakdowns.
Okay,
and we move forward.
And then the pandemic hits and public ridership plummets, public transit ridership plummets. It's in the news this morning. Federal public servants not coming back to work, quote unquote, anytime soon. Mm-hmm. Anytime soon, John Manconi. What impact will that have on ridership in Ottawa?
Well, if you're a pessimist, you start panicking. I'm not a pessimist. I'm an optimist. I think what it does is the following. The first thing we realize is, when are the times we had the toughest, whether it was bus or rail? It was in the morning rush hour and the afternoon rush hour. Why, Rob? And this is a fault of us as leaders of OC Transit. We don't explain to the public. If I were to tell you, I hope you can believe me, that our morning rush hour peak is more intense than Los Angeles in terms of a rush hour intensity at the peak of the peak. So if there's less riders out there in the peaks, both in the morning and the afternoon, we can spread that out across the day. The challenge, which we are going to step into big time, is how do we track riders so that while we may not have those peaks, we have capacity that we can leverage. Maybe we redeploy buses into suburban communities where there's been a demand that we haven't been able to meet. Okay. And maybe we attract new types of riders that perhaps were reluctant before, saying, I don't want to get into a packed train car or into a packed bus, and they're not as busy. And so we get back to moving 100 million people. Just the profile of how and when we move them looks different. That's the future of transit, short term. Long term, it's going to correct itself. It's going to figure out what we need. But one thing that we shouldn't do is cut service, because we hurt those that need it the most. Stop investing. Stop building. And I've heard it all. Oh, stop stage 2. Don't even look at stage. That is absolutely the wrong thing to do, because once you get behind, then you're playing catch up. We're not behind. We're ahead. And that's for our kids and our kids' kids, that they'll look back and go, I don't know who was around at that time politically or administratively, but boy, they really positioned us well for mobility in the future.
Okay, I want to ask you, and our time is a little tight, but 32 years is a long time to be with an organization.
Yes.
What was your first job at City Hall 32 years ago?
1989, I saw an ad in the paper, and it was to help out with drainage issues in Barrhaven. Barrhaven was just getting started, and there were some rear yard drainage problems, and I had to go out there and meet with residents and talk about ditches and swales and how to correct that.
And this was you must have been a engineering grad, right? And that was kind of your...
Civil engineering technologist.
Civil engineering technologist, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Holy cow. Okay. Well, and over the last 32 years, what's been your favorite job?
Honestly, Rob, all of them.
All of them? Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay.
Because it's been diverse, and I've been blessed. I've been appointed to just about every promotion, and it's just really been an honor to be part of the nation's capital. And to have great people. The staff at the City of Ottawa, all 18,000 of them are just phenomenal. And the City Council and the leadership team is second to none.
1989, you said, right?
Yeah.
Who was mayor when you were first hired?
So I've worked for 6 mayors, and at that time it was...
Jackie Holtzman?
No, it was City Nepean, so it was Ben Franklin.
Oh, Ben Franklin.
Andy Heaton had just moved over to the region, yeah. And since then... there was 5 after that, 1 before and 5 after.
So from time to time, get into an Uber car or whatever and have a conversation. Somebody would say, "Hey, I'm looking for a job." Whenever I always tell people, the City of Ottawa is hiring all the time. Put an application in the City of Ottawa. So you've spent a career as a City of Ottawa employee. Do you think the City of Ottawa is a good place to work?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good culture there. Yeah.
It's a tough place to work. Nations' capitals are typically tough. There's a lot of scrutiny, and that's okay. I mean, that's what I tell everybody. I'm going to take the next 5 months acknowledging all of the media reporters, including yourself, that are tough on us, because I don't take it personally. You're doing your job, but you're making sure that we're accountable and open and transparent and all those things. And the people in Ottawa, the nation's capital, I talk to my peers in Washington periodically, same kind of pulse there, or state capitals or provincial capitals. People want to know the facts, and so, but Ottawa is a great place to work, live, play, learn. Great economic situation also, but the City of Ottawa is a land of opportunity.
Okay. John Manconi, well-deserved retirement, sir. Enjoy it. I know.
Thanks, Rob.
And on to better things for you. Thank you
Rob.
again.
Appreciate the call.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
General Manager, Transportation Services, City of Ottawa, retiring after 32 years. John Manconi. And only 3 games left for the Ottawa Senators. That's it. Oh, man. Just when they were getting hot. Steve Warne on the Sens week, season, off-season, all ahead on City News.
It started out with a small outdoor booth in what was called Artist Alley, which is actually the area just outside our store on William Street, where for a couple of years we sold our jewelry directly on the street. And then we slowly evolved to having an indoor location in this building, 55 Borrowed Market Square. We then moved to another location in Place de Ville, and then moved back down here on Dalhousie Street at Irrigere in the 90s, and then back into this building again in 2000 as a collection. I do a collection of jewelry called Cirque that's mainly beaded work with a combination of semi-precious and vintage beads. And then she does a hat collection called Fanfreluche that's all cut and sewn hats in a variety of fabrics and for all of the seasons of the year. We've curated and sourced the artisans that we represent in a lot of different ways over the years since it's been, since 1985. Some people come to us since we're known, and other artisans that we represent might recommend that they come and see us. Some people we find at craft shows, or we see their work, somebody wears it in, and we go and track it down and bring it. And then some people, interestingly, are with us in one medium, and then sometimes they evolve to another. They're all Canadian and mainly local. With the roughly 50 people that we have, I'd say more than half of those are Ottawa-Gatineau, and then the rest are from other cities in Canada, Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, etc. If you can afford it, go to a small business and spend some money. It's lovely when you come in and, give me a pep talk and tell me how much you love this place and you've been coming here for years. But if you can afford it, please spend some money too, because all the pep talks in the world are not going to pay my rent, which is still full rent even when we're closed. Then secondly, if you can't afford to spend money, follow the businesses that you want to support on social media. Go to their Instagram, go to their Facebook, follow their Twitter, and then retweet, share their Facebook page, like and comment. Because if you can't afford to, as many of us can't right now, to do extra expenditures, doing all of those little things like that will raise the visibility of those small businesses, and hopefully for them result in some online or curbside or other business for them.
Strong voice.
Strong opinions.
Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Steve Warne is back, veteran Ottawa broadcaster, host of the Sens Nation podcast. Good morning. Great to hear from you, Steve. Welcome back. Missed you last week. And we have 3 games left for Sens fans. That's it?
That is it.
That's
They get Winnipeg Saturday, Calgary Sunday, and then they face the Leafs in what I guess they can address as their season ender, their pseudo Stanley Cup on Wednesday.
Steve, how do you explain the Ottawa Senators' recent dominance over their opposition?
Well, it's been a treat. It's just been since the trade deadline. It feels like a switch has been flicked here. They'd lost 6 of 7 going into the deadline. Since the deadline, they're 8-2-1. And I think something happens to you at the deadline potentially, Rob. You have some veterans who move out. The kids get more responsibility. They start feeling like, yeah, this is our team now. You've got the veterans who stay, who don't get traded. They're in a better frame of mind. They're not worried about uprooting families and being dealt. And I think the other thing is that the deadline is right around the time they changed out their goalie coach. They came in with Zach Bourque, and since they did that, in the 11 games since the deadline, they've basically gone from a goals against average, which was something around 3.8. It's now 1.82 in the 11 games since the deadline. So something happened at the deadline. The answer's probably in there somewhere, but this has been as good a team as any in hockey since then.
So as it stands right now, 3 games to play. The Sens have a record 21-27-5, 47 points. That's 25th in the league. tied with Columbus and New Jersey. It's no, that's not right. 25th in the league out of 31 teams. Would you say, with the performance this season, that the Senators have met expectations, exceeded expectations? What would you say, Steve?
Been a tale of two seasons. Certainly the second half, they've been beyond expectations, but that first month was something like 2 wins, 12 losses. It was uniquely bad, not for all the reasons that it doesn't belong to all the Sens as far as the excuse-making goes. But I think that what we've seen in the second half, if you make me choose one of those two options, I'm going to say they've exceeded expectations. Everything just seems to be coming up roses right now. Most of the blue-chip prospects on this team are doing what we hoped they would do. We were all worried about it in the first month, but I think that, this last month and a half in general, it's taken me from going, okay, we've got another 2 years of black cloud over this franchise to being very, very confident that this team, even though they're going to move back to the Atlantic with all those power teams that'll be moving back, I still am very confident this team will make the playoffs next year.
I will say, as a Sens fan, they exceeded my expectations, and I think the rebuild is ahead of schedule. That's what I would say. I'm very excited. I'm very excited now. Man, they were brutal at the start, though, weren't they, Steve? No, man, I don't know what their start was. Like, I think after 10 games, they might have had 2 points or something like that. It was just brutal.
Yeah, it was terrible. They're just right now. Look what they did in Montreal the other night. The Habs are a playoff team right now, and they just manhandled them like 5-1. And I thought the score could have been worse. They ended up taking 6 wins off of Montreal. Probably should have been 7, remembering that they blew that 2-0 lead last Saturday and lost in overtime.
Yeah.
So there's so many good things happening right now. This team just bears no resemblance to that team you talk about back in January.
No, it could have been if they had a better start. Woulda, shoulda, coulda. If they had a better start and they would have won Jeepers 3 games against Edmonton. Remember, they lost every game against Edmonton. They didn't win a single. How many times did they play? 9 times. They lost all the games, right? So.
Yeah, that was uniquely bad. It makes you wonder, what if they'd gone to the kids sooner? What if they'd started, not brought in some of these veterans who were part of that awful, awful start that they had? I've talked about it before on your show, Rob, about all the things that were against them going into the season. 10 months of not doing anything during COVID, no exhibition games at all. Half the roster got turned over. So the cards were stacked against them. But I sometimes wonder, if this were an 82-game season, would they get there? I kind of think they would, as opposed to a 56-game schedule that they're in. But what if they'd gone to some of the kids a little earlier? Maybe that would have made a difference.
Might have made a difference, yeah. So, Steve, when was the last time the Leafs and Habs played each other in the playoffs?
You're going back to the late 70s, if you can believe it.
Wow, really?
They played each other every year, almost in the 1960s. And the last time in the original 6, that was the 1967 Cup win. Toronto beat Montreal, and since then, they've only met twice in the playoffs.
Wow.
Montreal won both of them. They swept both in 1978 and 1979. And so there has not been one single playoff showdown between the greatest rivalry in the history of the NHL since 1979.
Since I got cable television, the Leafs and Habs have not been in the playoffs. Would have still had rabbit ears the last time they were met in the playoffs. Who do you? The Leafs are going to smoke the Habs in the playoffs, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think though. I have the utmost confidence in Toronto's ability to score. Matthews and Marner are as good as it gets. But, the goaltending is another matter. That's we always talk about goaltending at playoff time.
Yep.
And Freddie Anderson is just now playing with the Marlies. I'm not sure if he's going to be ready to roll in the playoffs or if they go with Jack Campbell. I'm just not sure that Toronto has the goaltending to go far, but I think they have enough scoring that even if the goaltending is sketchy, they should have enough to get past the Montreal Canadiens.
Talk to you next week, Steve. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
Yep. Steve Warne from the Sens Nation podcast. Queen's Park Week in Review after the news on City News.
The 101  FM, 1310 AM. 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 1310 AM Number one for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, the 7th of May. Good morning. I'm Sarah Buchan. Right now in Ottawa, cloudy skies, 12 degrees, cloudy and 11 in Smiths Falls. Here's what's making news right now. The Leeds Grenville Lanark Health Unit confirms one new death due to COVID-19. The health unit is reporting 5 new cases of novel coronavirus, including 3 of those cases in the last 24 hours. Provincial health officials reporting 3,166 new cases of COVID-19 and 23 deaths, but say the case count may actually be higher because of some reporting issues from 3 regions around the GTA, including Toronto. Elsewhere, Public Health Ontario is reporting 106 new cases in Ottawa, 15 in Eastern Ontario, and 5 new cases in Renfrew County. The local health units update their numbers in the afternoon. Quebec is reporting 919 new cases of COVID-19 and 5 more deaths attributed to the virus, 2 of those in the past 24 hours. There are 33 new cases in the Outaouais. Health officials say hospitalizations have dropped, as has the number of patients in intensive care. Quebec vaccinated 102,762 people yesterday. That's a single-day record, and has now administered at least 1 dose to slightly more than 40% of the population of that province. A group of 65 MPs from all 5 parties wants the federal government to join the U.S. bid to waive the global rules around COVID-19 vaccine trade secrets. The MPs have written a letter urging Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to support the proposed World Trade Organization waiver. Supporters say it would make it easier for developing countries to import the equipment, expertise, and materials needed to make their own vaccine. The idea is opposed by a pharmaceutical industry and a number of key world leaders who say it would be counterproductive. I'm Sarah Buchan. For News Anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The world is changing.
So keep up with Rob.
The Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News, 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's time for Queen's Park Week in Review. Our panel of MPPs are gathered. Gilles Bisson of the New Democrats represents the riding of Timmins. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to hear from you. John Fraser represents the Liberals, MP for Ottawa South. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Rob.
And David Piccini represents the Progressive Conservatives, and his riding is Northumberland-Peterborough. Do I have that right? Northumberland-Peterborough South, which is way better, I've heard, than Northumberland-Peterborough North, for example. You don't ever want to venture into the north end of Northumberland-Peterborough. No way. I don't know. I've never even been there.
As a northerner, I resent that.
and he's in Port Hope. Okay, there is much to discuss. We have had several reports about long-term care, and every day the opposition stands in the Ontario legislature, and it demands the resignation of the long-term care minister. Dr. Marilee Fullerton is a local MPP, longtime doctor. Liberals appointed her to the LHIN, for crying out loud. Kanata Carleton, the riding. And Premier Ford defended her this week. She is not offered her resignation, and really should she? Can you really put the long-term care tragedy, I'm not discounting the tragedy at all, can you really put it all on the backs of one minister, or isn't there a lot, and I mean a lot, of blame to go around? Gilles Bisson.
Well, it's not just a question of blame. Listen, clearly governments over the years, both the Liberals and the Tories, when we were in government, we started moving the system to a public system. The Tories and then the Liberals and the Tories again have been moving to a private system. So, yeah, there's blame to go around. I don't argue that. But the issue is there has to be some ministerial responsibility for what you did when you found out that you had a problem and what you did in order to be able to make seniors safe. And what that long-term care commission report has come back with is that there was a lot of doubt created and a lot of allegations created as to what the government did and what the minister did when they found out the situation. Like we've got people who were dehydrated in long-term care institutions, people who were not well cared for, infection rates that went far beyond what they should have. So clearly the government has some responsibility, and in a British parliamentary system, there is something called ministerial responsibility, and I think at one point the minister and the government has to accept that and say, okay, we learned.
When was the last time that actually happened? When was the last time that actually happened?
It used to happen quite a bit, actually, if you remember back in the day. But it's over the years, governments have dug in their feet. And I think that has not helped us as a democracy because in the end, governments don't learn and get better.
John Fraser, your party governed Ontario for 15 years. Doesn't it share some of the blame for the tragedy of long-term care in Ontario?
Yeah, I agree. And I said that quite openly and quite publicly. That, we built or rebuilt 30,000 beds, raised the wages of PSWs $4 an hour, invested more in home care. It wasn't enough. And clearly we have responsibility for that. And I'll apologize for that. And what Jill says is true. There's a question of ministerial accountability. And the other thing that the report points out that's, not pre-existing conditions, but it's delayed decision-making and a failure to take action very clearly on things like stopping workers from working in more than one home, or taking action on the staffing plan, or taking a vaccination vacation over Christmas while other people were other provinces were vaccinating people in long-term care. So there is a responsibility for the decisions that weren't made or were very slow in coming. And actually, if you take a look, and I think Jill mentioned the military report, 26 people died of dehydration and malnutrition, which is another word for starvation. And the Premier said last May, he said, we've launched an investigation and anything that's going to go over to the police will go over there. Well, that investigation never happened. The Solicitor General confirmed it. So, look, someone's got to take responsibility. And the minister even hasn't taken any responsibility for any of those decisions. She says, I'm taking responsibility for fixing things. Well, let's all take responsibility for the role that we played. Right? And you have to be, that's the only way to go forward. And now there are 85 recommendations. The government hasn't committed to any one of those.
Okay. David Piccini.
Yeah, thanks very much. I think just first and foremost, of those recommendations, many are already underway. So to say that we haven't committed to them is just blatantly incorrect. But I do appreciate, and where I'll agree with John, I appreciate that I think we all have important lessons to learn. We all take responsibility in where we've come from. But where I really would like to focus is on where we're going. That's not to dismiss anything in the reports. I think that when we got the military report, we had investigations in each home by 2 or more inspectors. Some of them have lasted over a month. And those reports were posted publicly, and they found no criminal wrongdoing, and therefore haven't passed it to the police. I think in the cases where, if there's a case that involves a police investigation, that should take place, not driven by politicians, but driven by an independent police and judicial system. What I will say going forward is with respect to the beds, John referenced the beds. We know we've got to get more beds in the system. That's why if you look around any of one of our communities today, we're investing in those beds. The science has showed us that one of the driving factors of spread was overcrowded rooms. And to illustrate a fine point that's referenced in the report, Ontario had 63% in crowded rooms, shared rooms. BC, it was 24. If you look at for-profit, non-for-profit, of the 50 worst homes in Wave 1, 40 were non-for-profit homes in Quebec. So I think without question, and Gilles will likely say, look, we need to look at non-profit for profit. I think it's important to note that there's not a single jurisdiction operating worldwide that doesn't that operates LTC that doesn't have a for-profit element. I think in our latest round of beds, we had double investment into the non-for-profit sector. Okay. And so I think there's a lot that we can do, but it starts with structural, more beds. Staffing will be the first province to do 4 hours of direct care. You got to train thousands. We did over 8,600 in Wave 1. We've got 16,000 PSWs graduating this year, 10,000 more than in normal years. That's part of our commitment for 2020.
Okay, let me jump in. I want to jump in. And I want to ask David, what is unacceptable to a lot of people and what is deeply offensive to a lot of people is that the government promised to build an iron ring around long-term care. And what they can't come to terms with is why more frail elderly residents in long-term care died in the second wave than the first. Mm-hmm. The first, there were many unknowns. The first, maybe there's some forgiveness there. Maybe. The second is almost unforgivable for a lot of people. That the government came across as so ill-prepared for the second wave after vowing to have an iron ring around long-term care. What happened there, David? What happened there?
Well, I think, John, I think, Rob, that this is important. You're absolutely right. I think that I mentioned the statistics on crowded rooms, 63%, over triple that in BC. I think we saw this across Canada, so this is not in isolation here in Ontario, that the variants of concern that grew in the second wave and have dominated now the third wave are far more resilient and have wiped out many long-term care homes by just that exposure. So I think that we all take responsibility. We invested in IPAC measures immediately. As I said, invested in over 8,600 new well-trained healthcare professionals after Wave 1. We moved to allow hospitals to take over control and or government management. Again, mandated testing. I mean, you saw the government in turn was criticized for people saying, I can't get in and hug my loved one in LTC because we wanted to protect them in those homes. So I'm taking responsibility. You're right to say that we failed our seniors in this province. That is true. And we have a lot of work to do. And I'm trying to point to a number of things that are a first.
Gotcha. Well, let's hear from your colleagues because we only have about 2 minutes left here before we have to stop. Gilles, go ahead, Gilles.
Just very quickly, that if the government is so interested in doing what's right for long-term for seniors and long-term care in the public, why then did they pass legislation that is going to shelter not-for-profits from being sued for the mishandling of this pandemic?
That's incorrect.
And the death of those people?
Incorrect, Gilles.
So in the end, why would the government go that way if they wanted to fix the problem? They're taking away from the public the ability to even go to court. Your Democrats under Andrew Horwath says, listen, we need to change the system. We have to take the for-profit out. We don't run hospitals for profit. We don't run a public school system for profit. We have learned over the years that the public sector does some things well, and we should be running a long-term care system. And the last point is we need to invest in home care much more than we do now, and to make sure that when we build new units, we don't build superstructures, that we look at building smaller units with individual rooms so you can prevent this kind of thing.
John, very quickly, John.
So there are two reasons there were more deaths in the second wave. First of all, we didn't move as quickly as Quebec and other provinces did to fix the staffing situation in long-term care. 6 months behind. The second thing is vaccinations in long-term care. We took a vaccination holiday over Christmas, took 2 weeks longer than other provinces to bring Pfizer into long-term care homes. And as a result, we finished 2 weeks behind every other province and took us 500,000 doses to get to 70,000 people.
Not true.
That's the reason. And that's what happened. Those are the two reasons. It's very clear.
Okay. We'll stop here. We can pick it up on the other side, but I also want to talk about why the federal government is doing an environmental assessment of a provincial highway, Highway 413. And maybe we'll play an attack ad or two. When we come back, Queen's Park Week in Review on the Rob Snow Show on City News.
We just took over this business about a few weeks prior to the pandemic. But we've been loving the community, the people, very friendly. But but it's been very difficult starting up a new business, just the time that we did, but I'm sure it's the same everywhere. We did take a broken business, which doesn't help us, but we thought we believe in what we do. We're very passionate about food, and we just really wanted to share the Iraqi culture through our food. All our recipes are homemade, so this is very unique. Usually you hear restaurants, shops, it's all frozen food or prepared food. So nothing here is prepared, everything is homemade. We get our meat and produce from a local farm. So supporting local is the way to go. We are supporting all the way. And our meat are actually marinated the day of, so it's as fresh as can be. Quality ingredients and everything is made from scratch. I get a lot of people when they come in, they say it tastes like Middle Eastern, like back home. So for you to have been to Iraq and had the food there, you can really like compare and see the similarity. We do like to focus on healthy. So our recipes, not only the homemade, again, everything is from scratch, but we have like from combos and to like small sandwiches. Our one of our favorites and very popular is the chicken salad and the beef salad. So now you're getting all the protein and all these amazing ingredients that we all need. During this time, I find a lot of people are sitting at home and not enough movement. So to come here and get something healthy other than go elsewhere and just put, what's not so good for our bodies, makes a huge difference. So we have shawarma sandwiches, combos. I mean, if you're looking for a meal to feed your family, I would highly recommend the family platter. It comes literally with everything, with potatoes, with rice, with chicken, with beef, and we don't charge extra for mix. I know a lot of places do. Here we just add everything to your platter. And lots of healthy choices for sure. We're very passionate about food, and for our small family business, it's been good. Like I said, it's a little struggle, but we are not a chained restaurant.
Firm.
Fair.
Fun.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News 101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
We're back with part 2 Queen's Park Week in Review with Gilles Bisson, NDP for Timmins, John Fraser, Liberal Ottawa South, David Piccini, Northumberland-Peterborough South. Okay, do you want to keep going on long-term care, or should we talk about other things? I'll leave it up to you.
413.
Okay, 413. Do I have unanimous consent to go on? Yes. All right, here we go. Well, David, I want to start with you, David, because I think this is the Trudeau Liberals, poking their nose where it doesn't belong, and they're trying to cause trouble for Ford Nation here. What is your reaction to the news that the federal Liberals will do? The federal Liberal government is going to do its own environmental assessment of Highway 413.
Sure.
What do you think?
So first off, just to provide some context, the previous government prematurely canceled the environmental assessment for the GTA West corridor, never released the lands, and as a result left a number of landowners in limbo for years without a plan to alleviate the congestion in the GTA. So we know that that the Greater Golden Horseshoe is expected to grow by 14.8 million people. That's what it will grow to by 2051. 11 billion is the cost of congestion in the GTA right now. So looking at this, I think it's important to note as recently as March 2020, the experts at the Impact Assessment Agency of Canada, and if folks have to Google that, no problem, I did as well, reviewed the evidence and declined to take further action. This is a federal body on the GTA West project. That was as recently as March 20. Now, they say they have newly found concerns on the impacts that the project would have on western chorus frog, I believe, red-headed woodpeckers, and the rapid clubtail. And we're committed to working with them to address these concerns. We have a robust EA process in Ontario. and are working closely with the region on this as well. I note a number of Peel Region councillors want this process to happen. I understand that many groups have come forward. This evokes strong opinions, but the bottom line is that we're not going to address our congestion needs alone by only public transit. We do have to expand our roads, bridges, and highway networks.
Gilles Bisson, all right. Highway 413, GTA West.
Interesting
federal environmental assessment, though, Gilles. Did we really need a federal environmental assessment?
Well, listen, there has to be an environmental assessment on a project like this.
But do you need more than one, though?
Go ahead, sorry.
Do you need more than one?
Well, listen, my colleague pointed out that under the Liberals, they had sort of truncated that whole process to where there wasn't an actual proper EA done. So you're going to be building a freeway across the Greenbelt. There needs to be an environmental assessment. I can tell you that is something that we believe as New Democrats, you have to have proper planning. There has to be an EA on these things. So in the end, it's, I think, unfortunate that the province didn't do what it had to do originally. So the federal government is stepping in, and I think it speaks to the relationship between the federal and provincial government when it comes to the trust factor to be able to build these type of projects in environmentally sensitive areas. Now, you may be on one side or the other side of that issue, but clearly it points to both levels of government are not on the same page here.
John?
Yeah, no, I welcome the environmental assessment. Look, the federal government has an obligation, just like the provincial government does, to do environmental assessments. I think they did both provincial and federal environmental assessments for light rail here in Ottawa. Look, we canceled 413 because we just didn't believe that spending $8 billion to save people 30 seconds in a commute was the right thing to do. It should be invested in education. And so, the federal government's coming in, they're going to do an assessment. We just said, we're not going to build a road. We're not building the road. We're going to invest it in education. You have to ask yourself, why is this such a big priority? And it kind of ties into the government now giving itself the ability to do what's called ministerial zoning orders, which means you can override any planning act, anything in government to allow somebody to build something somewhere. And so where's this highway going? What's it next to? Who owns the land? Those are all really good questions. They won't be found in the environmental assessment, but those questions are being asked.
May I just jump in?
Sure.
There?
Go ahead. Yep.
Just to respond to that, I mean, I'd love for Gilles or John to explain what in the federal process is more robust or different from the provincial process, which the federal government has acknowledged how robust our individual EA process is. And secondly, so I think that's a very specific piece that needs to be addressed. Secondly, this is not a question of 30 seconds. Reports have come out. This is a question of 60 minutes or more, and that's an hour each way each day. That is significantly that saves time for many. So I mean, anyone who spent any time in the GTA in earnest, and I'm a commuter.
I don't go there. The traffic's too bad.
The traffic's awful. So come on.
That's funny.
John,
everybody goes, I do. Listen, they got ministerial orders that allows them to overwrite whatever the planning process is going to be. So why did the federal government step in?
What's your best guess? Does this environmental assessment kill this project or what?
I think it does.
There you go. Okay. All right. I have to get into the whole idea of ads here. Play the ad, please, David.
For over a year, the Trudeau government has failed to seal our borders from COVID-19.
The health risk to Canadians continues to be low.
The more countries that have outbreaks, the less relevant borders become.
Whether or not we should entirely close our borders to China the way the United States did, we did not.
Deadly variants continue to stream into Canada. Trudeau didn't close the borders when the pandemic started. He didn't close the borders when it got worse. Nobody wants a fourth wave. It's time to act. A message from the Ontario PC Party.
I think that's the best one yet. That's got tonight written all over it, by the way. Man, that reminds me a lot of the Harper government ads. It really does. I think it might even be the same voice. David, first of all, thank you for the business. And we really appreciate it. The PC Party of Ontario. First, it was the Ontario teachers. They couldn't spend money fast enough. Now it's the PC Party of Ontario. Nevertheless, why is the PC Party of Ontario attacking Justin Trudeau's government through this massive ad buy?
Okay, so let's shoot straight here. This is the Ontario PC Party. We've written 4 letters to the federal government. None have been responded. We've begged, we've pleaded. You've seen the Premier. The title of newspaper articles has been Premier Pleads. Our municipalities, my municipality, 10 municipalities, 2 First Nations, all signed a joint letter to the federal government. All of these letters have gone unresponded to. And anyone who is alive and remotely listening to the 2019 federal election knows that our Prime Minister ran his entire election against Doug Ford, not against Andrew Scheer.
Yep.
I think we had shortcomings and the opposition, so be it, but they ran their entire campaign against the Premier.
So you're going to run against the Liberals?
I'm sorry, but I listen to your show. I listen to others. We hear tons of third-party groups, all of whose big bosses donate to Gilles and the NDP, running ads against the government, all the teachers' unions.
Oh, the teachers' unions ads were everywhere.
Yeah, you can't dispute that. So third parties. So we make no apologies. The party, not the government. The party makes no apologies.
All right, no apologies. Okay. All right, Jill. Go ahead, Jill.
Yeah,
very quickly.
Got the right to advertise.
30
I'm
seconds.
not going to argue that.
Yeah.
But listen, this is diversion, pure and simple.
Diversion.
The government has bungled this whole second and third wave. There's lots of criticism to go around from their own reports. So the Long-Term Care Commission, as an example. And they dearly want to focus the target to the federal government. Now, did Mr. Trudeau do the right thing? No. I think he should have shut the darn borders. I don't disagree with the.
Well, what, Jill? The NDP of Ontario can't afford an attack ad, or what?
Well, listen. Why attack? Why attack what at this point?
All right. Okay.
You got the Conservatives provincially are in trouble, who are trying to divert attention to everybody. Look over here at the federal government and don't pay attention to what we didn't do as their defense. And I think it's a reprehensible.
Okay. 25 seconds, John, and then we have to go. 25 seconds.
Get to the border. It's just
go ahead, John.
People are scared.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV.